Texas, let's go racing in our 8500. Drivers, Texas, let's go racing in our 8500. Drivers, start your engine.
Michael and I will be here throughout the race. Time to head upstairs. They are the voices of NASCAR on Fox. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, Mike Joy. And we say start your engines. What's better, faster, faster? It depends on if your engine can hold up, Mike, over 500 miles.
Well, that's true, Chris. This is only the second 500-mile race of this young season, and there have been some engine issues already this weekend. Darrell, though, the thing that impresses me most about this racetrack tonight is it is blazing fast.
Yeah, we set a new track record, another new track record. But what really I enjoy about where we are right now with the drivers and the cars, they're having fun. Every one of these guys says, look, we're going faster than we've ever gone before, but we're doing it easier than we've ever done it before. And that's a tribute to the car. This is a great race car. I think it's the best race car NASCAR's ever had. And these are the fastest race cars in the history of NASCAR.
Well, these drivers, they may be stressed somewhat going 500 miles at 200 miles an hour into the corner and almost 195 mile an hour lap speeds. But Larry, what about the stresses it puts on these cars?
Well, and Mike, that speed has been in daytime. As we get into the nighttime, this track is going to cool down. It's going to gain a lot of grip, and these cars are even going to get faster. Absolutely. The engine guys are very nervous. We get those long green runs, and the RPM is just going to continue to go up. A lot of stress on these engines. As you mentioned, we've already had some failures. I do want to tell you this. The guy I want to watch, he won this race a year ago, Greg Biffle. Had a little bit of a bobble qualifying, qualified 35th. He is going to be fun to watch coming to the front.
NASCAR did make a minor gear change before we got here, anticipating these high speeds and high RPM.
All right, 42 drivers ready to race. Joey Logano is still waiting. As the field rolls off pit road, let's have a look at the Geico starting grid for tonight's race. Kyle Busch, new track record. Kurt Busch, best Texas start, second time the brothers have started on a front row together. Eric Almirola, his first top 10. His teammate Marcus Ambrose, right alongside row 2. Martin Truex, last year's pole winner for this race. And Dale Jr., who got his first Cup win here in Texas. Jimmy Johnson's a two-time winner, including last fall, and his teammate, Jeff Gordon, the 2009 winner. Carl Edwards, 3 Texas wins, most of all drivers, and JP Montoya, who finished 7th here in 09. Jamie McMurray coming off his best finish of the year, and Austin Dillon making his 3rd start of the season. Two-time Texas winner Tony Stewart shares the 7th row with Casey Kane, who has a win here from the pole. Brian Vickers, his 3rd start of 2013. He's in for Denny Hamlin, and there's the series champ Brad Keselowski, who finished 2nd here in November. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the rookie, and Joey Logano in the 18th position. And rounding out the top 20, Paul Menard, who has 3 top 10s here, and 2-time Texas winner Matt Kenseth. A look back through the rest of the field. Casey Mears and Mark Martin back in the 55 this week. Clint Boyer, last week's runner-up, with David Reagan. David Gilliland and Dave Blaney, a Ford and a Chevrolet in the 14th row. There is Labonte in row 15 with Kevin Harvick, who has changed engines and will start in the rear. Travis Kvapil will have one of our onboard cameras. There with Ryan Newman, the 2003 winner. David Stremme and Mike Bliss. Greg Biffle, 2-time Texas winner, starts deep in the field. Watch for him to move up. Michael McDowell there with Rudiment, Landon Castle, and Josh Wise. Veteran Joe Nemechek with Danica Patrick, and rookie Timmy Hill rounds out the 43-car field. All right, Joey Logano rolls off. He'll make a quick stop there with his crew. No, he won't stop, excuse me. He'll go out and pick up the tail end of the field. And let's go to pit road, Matt Yoakum.
Mike Dale Earnhardt Jr. has fond memories of the Texas Motor Speedway, the son of his very first Sprint Cup Series win back in 2000. Now Junior will start 6th in the grid, and he told me that basically from the time they unloaded, he's been very pleased with his 88 machine. And the most positive aspect of their package here at Texas, he said, is simply the car is so good near the end of a run. Should be good for later on tonight as he tries to score his first win since Michigan last summer. Chris Devoda?
Well, Jeff Gordon is coming off his best finish of the year, a 3rd last week at Martinsville. He's up to 12th in points. Momentum is building. They have their car set up for the long run. They know it is typical to have long green flag runs here at Texas. It has been 4 years and 8 races since Jeff Gordon won at Texas. For Jeff Gordon, 8 is most certainly enough. Steve Burns?
Well, Krista, Matt Kenseth loves the Texas Motor Speedway. He has 2 wins here. He leads nearly every statistical category, including the most laps led, over 700. And he won on the 1.5 miles earlier this year at Las Vegas. But crew chief Jason Ratcliffe said these 1.5 mile tracks are dissimilar. He's been having a hard time getting that car to roll through the middle without hurting his exit. Jeff Hammond.
Well, Steve, whatever you do, don't laugh at where I'm at. I found a boxing ring here that the Texas Motor Speedway has set up because the last 3 races, whether it's been drivers or crews, they've been kind of like getting it on. So they've got it ready for a post-race, you might say, Wild Wild West show. All I can say, guys, is bring it. It's Texas.
Well, Saturday night's all right for fighting. Kevin Harvick going to the back after that engine change. This race is brought to you by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, fast finish. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Beautiful cloudless day here in the Lone Star State. Nice and warm and still full sun on half the racetrack. Track temp 93, ambient 77. A light breeze from out of the northwest, warm and clear. 500 miles, 334 laps.
We're going to see race cars everywhere on this racetrack, Mike. High, low, through the center. This track really is fun to race on for these guys.
Pit road speed 45 miles per hour. The fuel window for Sunoco race fuel 48 to 52 laps.
Now Kevin Harvick, due to the engine change, goes to the back. Brad Keselowski changed rear ends but made it to the starting grid in time. He retains his spot. Joey Logano had to go back through inspection yet again after the change, and because that car was not present on the grid when the field rolled off, he will also start in the rear.
He's got some good company back there. We talked about Greg Biffle, Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer's well back in the pack as well to start this race.
Go ahead, Tavern. 22 will start in the rear for being late and not presenting himself on the grid at that.
Chevy SS pace car to pit road. Here they come, ready to race Lone Star style.
All right. Get up on your feet. Put your hands together. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
Kyle Busch takes advantage. Right from the get-go, challenge for second at the line. Kurt Busch from Almirola. He's got company. Martin Truex almost took him 3 wide for second place.
That's what you love about this racetrack, though. You can race on the bottom, in the middle of the track. Probably won't be long. We'll see it right up against the wall.
One thing else I like, Larry, is that 43 car went down into turn 1 beside Kurt Busch on the outside. They were able to run side by side without getting into each other.
There we go. 3 wide, Woo! Second place. And it's Truex on the bottom in the 56.
Jimmy Johnson in that 48, though. He's falling right up through there as well. Won the race here in November.
Oh, he won't waste no time in getting to the front.
Oh, Kurt Busch had to pedal it off turn 2 in the 78, and he's going to fall into the clutches of Johnson for third.
Turn 2 is tricky, man. It's a little rough over there right through the middle of the track. Can upset the car. Saw that happen to Kurt right there.
Johnson clears Busch for third, with Edwards fifth, Almirola, Gordon, and Ambrose. 18th position. That's Matt Kenseth on the inside of Paul Menard. Riding with Brad Keselowski. And for 9th place, Jamie McMurray and Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Junior already looking to that kind of high line, getting a nice run off the corner.
Right behind them, Tony Stewart working on Brian Vickers, who's in the 11 this week. Denny Hamlin is here, still recuperating. Supposed to be back in the car in a couple of weeks, but that's up to the doctors, not Hamlin.
When you can run the bottom like you saw Brian Vickers do there, it's obviously the shortest way and the fastest way if you can get back in the gas.
Not really surprised to see Brian Vickers moving up. He was awfully good in practice yesterday, but he was the first driver to go out in qualifying when the track was at its worst.
Well, that 11 car has dominated this track before.
Vickers and Earnhardt for 10th. Tony Stewart moving in. And here is Joey Logano, who started tail end of the pack and has moved up 10 positions in that 22.
Oh, he'll move up to about mid-pack pretty quickly, but from there on it gets pretty tough.
Coming through 3 and 4, that sun gets right in your eyes.
Just right over into 3, Mike. When you turn into the corner right now, you're looking into the sun momentarily, but then you go into where the grandstand shades the turn.
DW, that's what 24 degrees of banking feels like, I guess, huh?
Yeah, and it feels, with the G-force and the speed here, Larry, you really can tell that you're really flying around this track.
Here we go into turn 3. And right there, the glare.
Yeah.
Just before you dive into the shade of turn 4.
One thing I see, Danica Patrick, she is busy in that race car right now.
4th place, Kurt Busch's Chevrolet, Carl Edwards Ford. 4th and 5th.
Not far behind them is another guy that's won here before. Jeff Gordon, that 24 car, had that great run at Martinsville last week. Now Jeff has moved up to the 6th position.
Steve Burns.
And Kurt Busch just said to his team, I have no idea what happened to all of our grip that we had yesterday. It feels like we have a parachute behind us.
Well, and they'll have to anticipate, you know, as I mentioned, as the track cools down, will this car find the grip back? You know, it looked like he was a little disjointed there when the race started, but he's about to lose a spot now to Carl Edwards in that 99.
Yeah, you can just see Carl has so much more speed through the corner, and he's eating Kurt up right now. Right here, Carl gets back in the gas. One thing that Kurt might have figured out right there, Larry, he was running the bottom. Maybe he's going to have to move that car to the top, free it up a little bit, and get some speed out of it.
And find that grip.
Yeah.
Michael McDowell made a pit stop. That car looked to be overheating, but he goes back out onto the racetrack as Kyle Busch brings him across. 2 seconds up on Martin Truex in just 10 laps.
So I think that's it. Kurt made a nice decision, Larry. He went to he was running around the bottom. He moved up a little higher, and now he's able to maintain a better pace and keeping Carl behind him.
And that keeps that thing wound up pretty good when you run a little bit higher up the racetrack. Doesn't bind it or bog it down as much.
And remember, we do have a little higher gear. Not a lot, 10 points, but a little higher gear than what we had here last year.
15th place, rookie Austin Dillon. That's Richard Childress' grandson up on the top side, and another rookie, Ricky Stenhouse, the Nationwide Series champ in 17.
Yeah, Austin Dillon went out and rounded up these sponsors on his own. Not Richard Childress, not his dad, Mike Dillon. No one helped him. In about 2 weeks, he found enough sponsorship to run this 51 car here.
One driver in the field who wears a cowboy hat when we're not in Texas. Austin Dillon.
Like Hammond, who wears his spurs everywhere he goes.
Casey Kane right with them in the number 5.
Casey actually lost a little ground at the drop of the green flag. This is right with Kevin Harvick. He's picking them up and laying them down after starting at the rear of the field.
And Darrell, one thing you're going to talk a lot about tonight is closing rate. He just closed right up on that car and shot past.
Yeah, this car has a 7-inch tall spoiler on the rear of it. It really leaves a nice weight behind it. It allows you to draft right up, and with this car, the way it's built, to pass. You don't get stalled out behind the guy in front of you.
Harvick who's moved up 17 spots in only 13 laps. Lost an engine in practice. They changed it. He ran his qualifying laps. They didn't like that engine either, and out it came. Matt?
Mike Gilmartin told me that they looked at the data on the computer after that qualifying run. The oil pressure was just inconsistent, didn't want to take a chance. They were already going to be at the back, so they changed it again. So yes, they're on their third engine. Harvick says right now the car is plowing. They're looking forward to that first stop, but he is making some gains, and he's moved up top.
Yeah, he's all the way at the top of the racetrack, Matt, at both ends.
14 laps complete, and Kyle Busch, who won last night's race here, taking off from the field. 19 laps complete, 315 to go here in Texas. We'll go 500 miles under the lights tonight as this track transitions from daylight to darkness. And look at the front of race leader Kyle Busch's car. That piece of debris looks like it's in a bad place.
Well, it is. You know, normally if you get debris on the nose of the car, that driver can go up there behind another driver, change the pressure on the nose, and it'll actually pull it off. But it's down so low, that's going to be hard to do.
Pretty embedded in there, Larry.
Tried to do that with Michael McDowell. It did not get that off there. So here's Carl Edwards battling Kurt Busch for 4th place.
Larry, I think the teams that anticipated what this tire was going to do are going to be the teams that are really going to excel tonight. We started off the pace with 28.35. That was fast lap. Right now, we're running at a 30.62. We've dropped 2 seconds in about 20 laps.
And I like the 12 drivers that did double duty, ran that race last night, like Kyle Busch. They know what to anticipate that it's going to do into the night and what this tire is going to do.
All right, Kyle laps Joe Nemechek. If you think this looks easy, watch Ricky Stenhouse in the 17 here.
Watch those hands inside the car. Watch it. Hang on to her, bud. It's a good thing he's an old dirt track racer. Look at the mess it caused behind him.
Yeah, Austin Dillon in the 51 got into the side of Clint Boyer in the 15 on the bottom.
You'll see it here from Brad Keselowski's Ford EcoBoost cam.
I'm sure that 51 got in the wall pretty good.
51 struggling. That was a 96. 55 in front of you, still outside.
That's just a chain reaction right there. The 17 gets out of shape. Probably pedaled it a little bit. You run up on him and bam, you're in the wall.
From that first camera angle, when you can read the right door numbers, that's not a good thing.
They were racing for 16th place. That bit of debris closing up part of the grill opening on race leader Kyle Busch as Montoya has to try to fend off Casey Kane in the 5 for 13th.
Yeah, Casey Kane in the 5 dropped back a little bit when we dropped the green flag, but now it looks like he's starting to make his way. I don't know that he's getting better at some of the drivers he's racing with. They're starting to lose the handle.
I tell you, Juan Montoya in that 42 car, he's going to wear the right side of his car out. He is as close to that wall as you can get without hitting it. Watch him right here, Larry. He just goes in and floats right up next to the wall.
Jeff Gordon closes in on Kurt Busch. This would be for 5th place.
Kurt's done a really nice job. I know he complained about his car on the start there, but he's done a nice job of finding a place where he can get the max speed out of his car.
There we're about halfway through this fuel run here, and in these conditions at least, a little bit of shade, a little bit of sunlight, I guess they're now starting to get a pretty good read of what their car is going to do right now.
Oh, I think so, Larry. You burn off about a half a tank of fuel. Now the balance is about where it's going to stay. Tire pressures have come up about where they're going to be. You can really start to give some good feedback to your crew chief now about what the car needs.
Kyle Busch just put J.J. Yaley, the 36th place car, 1 lap down. Matt?
Mike, just under a 2-second lead for Kyle Busch. Now he is aware of the debris on the front. Dave Rogers, the spotter, and Kyle have had conversation about it, so he is keeping an eye on the gauges. Right now, he says the car has gone from tight loose to now it's just absolutely loose on exit. His lap times, though, mirror that of the 56 of Truex, and his spotter continues to tell Kyle exactly what lane Truex is running, so that way Kyle can adjust.
Well, hopefully he doesn't have to adjust for temperature, because you see the black grill opening. Roughly 60% of that across the middle is covered by tape. There's a thin open slit at the top and one at the bottom that is covered by that piece of debris as Martin Truex trying to close in.
Yeah, I've been watching the score monitor, but more importantly, I've been watching Martin Truex Jr. in that 56 car. He is hugging the bottom of the racetrack through both ends.
Back at 7th, that's Brian Vickers. Toyota going around the outside of the Ford of Eric Almirola, who started 3rd.
You know, thinking about Brian Vickers, he's going to be standing in for Denny Hamlin, who will be out probably for a few more races. No one knows what, probably more than Brian Vickers, what it feels like to be on the outside looking in. A couple of years ago, he had to step out of the race car because of blood clots, so he truly knows what it feels like.
Yeah, and he's so excited about the opportunity to drive this 11 car. He drives in the Nationwide Series for Joe Gibbs, and now he gets a chance to drive this 11 car. It's like bringing in a backup quarterback. He knows the system. He knows how to communicate with Darian Grubb. It's a good opportunity for Brian right here.
What Brian wants more than anything is to be back in the Sprint Cup Series full time. And signs are looking toward that happening in 2014.
The way he's been performing, there's no question. By next year, he will have a full-time Cup ride.
Possibly in a 55 car.
There's a good chance.
29 laps complete. Kyle Busch has led them all. 35 laps complete. Kyle Busch's lead stable at 2 seconds over Martin Truex Jr. as Kyle works lap traffic. Good battle back at 9th. Marcus Ambrose, Matt Kenseth going at it.
Now watching the lap times on the 18 and the 56 Truex there. Truex is a tick quicker on some laps, but they're pretty even on most laps.
Kenseth slid up the racetrack and really had to rein it in to keep from getting up into Ambrose there.
Matt Kenseth started back in the 18th position in that 20 car. He's now cracked the top 10 up to the 9th position. Been fast every race this year so far in 2013.
This is a Matt Kenseth kind of race and racetrack, really. This is a long afternoon right here. 500 miles, boys. You got to pace yourself just a little bit.
38 laps in, our Toyota top performers. There's Kenseth in 9th. Kyle Busch, your race leader. Truex 2nd. And Brian Vickers 3rd. There is debris on the front straightaway, and that puts us under caution for the first time tonight. At 37 laps. The caution lights on the fence, so the fans are alerted to the yellow flag as well. Josh Wise will be the Aaron's lucky dog on this first caution of the night. You don't need credit. All you need is Aaron's. So he'll be back on the lead lap.
39 laps into this run here since the drop of the green flag. The strategy will be simple. 4 tires and fill me up with Sunoco race fuel. We still have, though, 33, 32, 33 drivers on the lead lap. I guarantee you, these guys right here, they're going to get a workout tonight, these pit crew members.
Very timely. Did you see that crew member with that lug nut in his mouth? Just in case.
And here's Denny Hamlin, a reluctant spectator, still recovering from his California crash. And we'll check with the doctors this week, but we anticipate it's still going to be several weeks before he is back in his office right here inside the number 11.
He's getting around pretty good. I see him on top of trucks, up on the pit box. He's getting around pretty well.
Pit road is open this time, and here come the lead lap cars. Krista?
Chad Knaus reminding his driver Jimmie Johnson, you have the very first pit stall. You see Jimmie Johnson turn in there in that white paint scheme this week. 4 tires. Jimmie a little tight. He is one of the rare cars because Martin Truex further up on pit road extremely loose. So much so he calls his car a handful. Steve?
Krista, speaking of a handful, Kurt Busch said it's like the right front isn't on the spring properly. A Packer out of the left front, air in the right front, Matt.
Kyle Busch looking for the weekend sweep. Our upholsterer held his own during that first run. He said the car needs to be tightened up everywhere. He's got the last pit box on pit road. Service is complete. He is away.
It appears having that first pit box coming in that Krista talked about really paid off for Jimmie Johnson. The real loser, you don't even see him here, Eric Almirola in that 43, all types of problems.
So we're under the first caution flag of the afternoon here in Texas. You're watching NASCAR on Fox. Finishing up the first caution flag of the night. It got busy on pit road. It's a very wide pit road here, but not a lot of room to work with. Watch Jeff Gordon come out of his pit stall around Travis Kvapil.
Yikes.
Woo, that's close.
Excuse me.
Not as close a call. Watch the light blue 43 of Almirola as Harvick comes over into Mark Martin, who squeezes Almirola out into the grass. Eric came into the pits 8th and came out 27th.
Well, that was a classic case of 33 drivers on pit road at one time, but you can see right here they had issues actually on the stop. I think Eric overshot the pits. I think a lot of the driver time, though, had to do with what we saw with him leaving pit road, so he's going to restart now back in 19th position, was in the top 10.
David Stremme and Mike Bliss took the wave around to get their lap back from race leader Kyle Busch as we get set to go back to green. Busch and Jimmy Johnson on the front row. Martin Truex with Jeff Gordon, David Reagan up for 5th with Brian Vickers, Edwards, Kenseth, Earnhardt, McMurray, the top 10. We're back under green.
I think what we're seeing, Mike, these first 5 or 6 cars here, these are the contenders. These are the guys that are going to be up front all night long. Here goes Martin Truex making a great run off turn 2. Truex set on the pole here last year for this race, led a lot of laps. Oh, trouble down the back.
2 cars in the wall, turn 3. One of them is Ricky Stenhouse sliding backwards, and the caution is out. Boy, Darrell, the restarts here are so treacherous. Everybody's trying to get everything they can.
Well, you got cars high, you got cars low. Here's the 51 car of Dillon. It's damaged.
Yeah, that's the other car.
Came all the way across the track.
Watch the upper right corner of your screen. There is Stenhouse. Watch for him.
This is what happens back here, though. You get a guy high, you get a guy low. We see the 17 come off. He was a little loose. We saw him earlier loose up off the corner. He's got a problem.
Something had to have went amiss on that car because that was right in the middle of the straightaway, Darrell.
Yeah, and the left rear tire looked like it might be down, Larry, and it had that look to it the way it darted around. Now he is letting that car he's backing that car up like that to get down off the racetrack. It's coasted, but he's getting down off the racetrack, out of the way, now off the track.
Both cars ended up in the wall. Stenhouse has taken his to the garage.
Lucky break for Brad there because that could have been big. Pretty sure the left rear tire was down on Stenhouse's car.
He was running 21st and on the left. Matt?
Yeah, Mike, the Blue Deuce on its way down pit road. Simply the reason for the stop, they're going to make a chassis adjustment to try to continue to work on this race car. We told you earlier that the car was loose, especially on exit of turn 2 where the car was so strong in practice. And also going to put on tires. Larry Mack documented earlier today just how much tires fall off of the course of a run. So they said, you know what, if you're giving to me, I'll come back down pit road. That's exactly what Brad did.
Like, I'm not so sure that what they had to do to that car going through inspection didn't change the setup and the way that car feels. They may have to work on that car all night long.
Well, and I anticipate maybe the same thing with Joey Logano in the 22 car.
Austin Dillon under repair. Mike Bliss made a stop in and out. And Bobby Labonte's taken his car behind the wall, Steve.
Mike, as you reported, he has a bad stomach virus. The plan was for Mike Bliss to get in that 47 if Bobby, in fact, had to get out. But Mike Bliss still soldiering along in the 19 on the racetrack.
So there's no one available to relieve Bobby Labonte.
Dang.
Wow. 2 drivers missed qualifying for this race, Scott Speed and Scott Riggs, but they must have both gone home, along with the drivers from last night's race. Here is why we're under caution for the second time.
Glad you're watching NASCAR on Fox. Prime time in Texas. A time for a race break under the second caution of the evening. The sun officially going down in about 35 minutes or so, and it's already may have set for rookie Ricky Stenhouse Jr. repairing his car. Came in 15th in points.
Yeah, he cut a left rear tire, it looks like, Chris. You can see on the back straightaway the thing starts to wiggle with him. You got to wonder if, look at all that traffic. Maybe when they threw the green flag, there was some contact. You see a little tire mark there on the left rear of the car anyway, and maybe cut that tire down.
Let's check in with Steve Burns. He's standing by with Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Yeah, Chris, back in the garage. A lot of work going on to this Best Buy car. What made that car turn dead left on you, Ricky?
I think we cut a left rear tire. I got really loose in 1 and 2, but we had been a little loose, so I didn't really think anything of it. But I think it cut the left rear tire down and just spun out. So tough break. I'd like to see how our Best Buy Ford Fusion would have ran, under the lights. But I thought it was pretty good on that side of the track with where the sun was down. But I guess we'll get back out there and ride around.
All right, thanks, Ricky. Mike Joy.
Thanks, Steve. J.J. Yaley got the free pass on this, the second caution flag of the night. 47 laps complete. Michael McDowell's car has gone to the garage. Austin Dillon has been under repair. He was speeding down pit road. They're holding him for running the paddle at the end of pit road. And we're back to green with Martin Truex, Kyle Busch, Jimmy Johnson, and Brian Vickers up front. Vickers stays low. That leaves room on the outside for Kyle. And he's coming back for the lead.
Martin Truex Jr. on the backstretch all the way to the bottom, just trying to get away from Kyle Busch in that 18 car.
You know, Larry, we talked about Martin Truex in practice yesterday about how I'm tired of racing for points. Let's forget points for a while. Let's go out and try to win some races. He said that's a good remedy they got going on tonight.
Yeah, been fast, just a lot of bad luck. 25th in the points, and looks like to me so far the new approach is working.
Yeah, the points will come. Win races, the points will come.
Jamie McMurray, Carl Edwards fighting for 7th. Marcus Ambrose right with them, then Kurt Busch and Dale Jr.
And the 101 car's got a little pep in his step. Had a great run last week at Martinsville. Bono Mannion, the crew chief, they're doing a pretty good job right now.
How about Kevin Harvick in that 29 car? Remember, started at the tail end of the field, and he's up there trying to get to the top 10 now as we ride with him down the backstretch.
And right off the restart, well, that's when Harvick seems to be at his best.
Well, that's what these cars are really good at. You can put them in places they've never been able to put these cars before. The closing rate is huge. You get by a guy, you don't have to hang beside of him. That's what makes this car so fun to drive.
Tony Stewart to the outside of Mark Martin, and Logano right with him.
This is a battle back about 19th and 20th.
Well, those two, the 14 and 22, there's been a war of words there and a scuffle in the last couple of weeks.
Why you have so much trouble off turn 2 over there, Mike, is because we just saw with Mark Martin and Tony Stewart. When you're on the bottom, you need that outside groove to kind of let the car slip up into. If it does and the other guy's there, it's big trouble.
Matt?
Mike Stewart started 13th earlier in the race. He was tight on both ends of the racetrack, and then the car started to go free out entry. They made a chassis adjustment on that stop, but now he's saying that the car, the splitter, bottoming down in turns 3 and 4.
Well, the car is going to get faster, and you're going to travel more, and that front splitter, you're seeing it right there on the bottom. See the yellow part there on Joey Logano's car at the bottom? That thing will start hitting the racetrack.
54 laps complete, the sun dipping a little lower in the sky. Jeff Hammond.
Well, Mike, right now I'm down here in 1 and 2, and I've been watching cars go through here, and like Larry Mack was talking about, the faster they go, the more they seem like they're hitting the racetrack. Very rough through this end of the racetrack, and guys, I don't want you to forget, you take a quick look, this wind is kind of jumping around here. All of a sudden it's gusting crisscross around across this racetrack. I think, again, some of that may be giving these drivers a fit.
And Jeff, that's what also will start blowing debris around. We've already seen debris on the front of Joey Logano's 22 car as well as Kyle Busch's 18 car.
One of my favorite crew chiefs, Jay Kelder, once told me I was complaining about the wind. He said, I can do a lot of things, but I can't do anything about the wind.
That's true. Boy, Montoya's done quite a job here trying to hold off Harvick, and now they have company. Almirola, Kane, and Biffle, who's come from 33rd to 17th. And that number 16 Ford.
Yeah, we talked about him before the race. We knew he was going to be up there before long. He's been fast in every practice. Car wouldn't turn qualifying. He had to really get out of the throttle.
Just listen to that engine. I mean, these engines are going to do that all night long, 500 miles, around 9,500 RPM. These engines are taking a beating here this weekend. You're back in the gas so early, and you're in the gas so long, it's just prolonged RPM, hanging RPM we call it.
And to support the track is getting faster. 6 of our top 7 drivers right now cut their fastest lap just about 4 or 5 laps ago.
See, Montoya has left this battle. Harvick now has some distance on Almirola, but not anymore. Kane and Biffle still right there. You know, we talk about the winds swirling. How about when we get to the Great Plains? That'll be a week from tomorrow. STP 400 in Kansas next Sunday afternoon on Fox as we go from Saturday night tonight to Sunday, then back to Saturday night and back to Sunday. So, gentlemen, start your calendars for the next 3 weeks of NASCAR on Fox.
Kansas ought to be real interesting with the new repave and these cars. I have no idea how fast these cars will go around that racetrack.
It'll put a whole new meaning to fast.
What Kurt Busch saying qualifying? Ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous.
Greg Biffle has gotten past Almirola, continuing his march to the front. From 33rd to 16th, he's halfway through the field in just 58 laps.
And only the 8 of 2 cautions.
Well, you know, this is a Biffle kind of track. We call Biffle a wheelman, and this is right in his wheelhouse.
Kevin Harvick, that 29, just like before the first caution, all the way up at the top of the racetrack, and he is making some hay up there.
When you get that run off the turn 2 over there, Larry, that you have so much momentum, you have to really be sure, like Casey Kane in the 5, that he's going to give me room to keep that momentum and keep going. If he slips up in front of me, hello, Wall.
And Harvick's gaining. Kane's going to have to give him a spot. Otherwise, contact would be forthcoming.
I love that piece in the pre-race show on Kevin Harvick where he went and hung out with Johnny Hendricks, the UFC fighter. He was a huge fan of UFC fighting. Actually was a wrestler in high school.
So Kane allowed Harvick in front of him when Harvick climbed the hill. Right on by. Earnhardt Jr. a little wiggle in his walk off the corner, Darrell.
I'm not so sure that Junior's totally happy with his piece right now. Got Clint Boyer looking under him here, and boy, the back end just steps right out on that 88 car. You can't stand that. That'll catch up with him.
5th place, 2 of the Gibbs Toyotas. Ryan Vickers motoring around Matt Kenseth.
Got a pretty good feeling about that old 20 car and Matt Kenseth. This is his kind of race. I'm telling you, keep an eye on him.
Steve?
Veteran feedback from Matt Kenseth, Mike. He said the car is pretty good. Don't change anything until it gets dark.
That's that anticipation, knowing that this racetrack, it's going to be an ever-changing racetrack.
So Vickers passed him. Kenseth to the bottom. Retakes. 4.7 seconds behind race leader Martin Truex. Jeff Burton selected that dark visor to start the race.
I got to believe that's a tear-off, Mike. I got to think that when the sun goes down, it gets dark and the lights come on, we look in here again, and I'm pretty sure it'll be a tear-off, but they can go to a clearer visor. You watch Junior drive his car, and you see here we see Brian Vickers in the 11. But watch Junior when he puts that right hand over on the left side of the steering wheel over there. I asked him about that. I said, why do you do that? He said, I learned that from Mark Martin. He said, back in 90, when I first started running in the Nationwide Series, Mark was winning all the races. I went to him, and he said, this is how you're supposed to do it. He said, that's how I've done it ever since. And it's a little different, kind of unique, but it's kind of old school.
Martin Martin Truex, your leader. Kyle Busch is 1 second back of the 56.
I think we have some different approaches that drivers took to start this race with the sunlight. We saw Dale Earnhardt Jr., Danica Patrick, pretty much with dark shields, but what looks like to me they've done with Brian Vickers, he's got a clear shield on, but what they've done, they've almost built the sun visor right inside the windshield with tape to shade that sun.
Yeah, you see that's a little tear off right there. When it gets a little darker, he'll start to peel that back a little bit.
We're not far from this track going through maybe what we'd call the first transition. It's still daylight, but we've lost the sunlight on about everything but the back straightaway.
Yeah, this is about the time of night, Larry, when we blistered this track with a new track record last night. 196.7 miles an hour around this little racetrack. Oh my, I'm still in shock.
A little bit of sunlight there on the back straightaway in the entrance to turn number 3, and that's about it. The grandstand otherwise blocking the sun's rays from the rest of the racetrack. 67 laps, 100 of 500 miles in the books. Only 3 leaders tonight. David Ragan for 1 lap, and it's been all Kyle Busch and Martin Truex. Welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway, where Martin Truex has led the last 31 laps, but Kyle Busch, who led the race's first 41 laps, has closed right in on the leader once again.
Yeah, Kyle's been gaining. I've been watching the timing and scoring. Kyle's been gaining about 500ths to a tenth a lap here lately, and he's closed back up on the back of Martin Truex.
And the thing Martin Truex Jr. in the 56 has closed in on is a lot of the drivers at the back of the pack.
Let's take a quick inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Kevin Harvick has gained the most positions since the start of this race. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with the NASCAR Mobile 13 app and truly unlimited data from Sprint. No metering, no throttling while on the Sprint network. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. We've got a new leader.
And Mike, you see what the 18 car was able to do. You think back to the old car. It would get up to the back of a car and could not proceed. It couldn't go forward. It would stall out. They would get arrow push. Everything would go haywire. This car doesn't do that. It may you catch them, you pass them.
All right, let's update the Bobby Labonte story, because he was ill at the start of the race. His car is in the garage. He's in the care center receiving fluids. He has the stomach flu. Michael McDowell is out of the race. He's too big to fit in Bobby Labonte's seat. The team had a deal with Mike Bliss, who started the number 19. He dropped out of the race to get in the car, but Bliss is still out on the racetrack, needs to pick up at least 2 or 3 more positions, so he'll have enough points to stay ahead of Scott Riggs. In case this car is too slow to qualify next week, it would be eligible for a provisional. Did all that make any sense?
Yes, it did.
Well, the trouble is Bobby's number 47 sits in the garage. Anybody else who would be eligible to drive it has gone, and the car sits waiting for someone to take the wheel.
That just don't sound like a very good plan to me, you know?
Meanwhile, Carl Edwards, is there an issue with the 99, Krista?
Well, possibly. He's not sick, but his motor might be. He just came on the radio and said something does not feel right. The engine just did something. I think the motor might be giving up.
Mike, that was our theme at the top of the show. As this track cools down, we've already talked about
20 horsepower, I'd say.
Oh, you can hear it, Larry. It sounds
It might be a header or something cracked. I'm just hoping that's what it is. We'll just keep running and we'll just keep going.
Yeah,
it's not a header.
You can see right there, we should be seeing probably 9,500 RPM at the end of the straightaway. What I saw at the end of the back straightaway, it barely got 8,500. We'll see a little more here on the front stretch. That right there is a telltale sign that something is amiss on that engine. And again, the RPM is just going to get higher as we get into the night.
And look, it's not a Ford problem. It's not a Chevy. It's not tonight that the pace we're running, the speeds we're running, it could be an everybody problem.
Jimmy Johnson up to second from 7th, and Ricky Stenhouse, who was the other car in the garage, they've completed repairs on his number 17. He is back in the race. 80 laps complete. Kyle Busch in front of Jimmy Johnson. Smoker, turn 4. Caution is out. And that is Stenhouse.
Outside. Clear.
That may have been a tire rub on Stenhouse's car. He just got back out there. They may not have got enough clearance around the tires. Yeah, you can see the left rear is rubbing right there.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, he just had left the garage area and went back out on the racetrack.
Well, from the head-on view from the tower, that looked like it could have been something big, and so the caution came out very quickly, again for Ricky Stenhouse.
Yeah, when you have a car come out of the garage, you can see the amount of repair that's been done to the car. It could have been an oil line. That's what the biggest fear is. Maybe that's a loose oil line, or maybe something broken under the car that they didn't repair, but obviously it wasn't. It was a tire, but they didn't know that.
It would be rare you would see a tire rub create that much smoke. I have to believe that's what NASCAR was thinking.
Josh Wise right behind Kyle Busch. He is the first car 1 lap down. He'll get the free pass on this, the 3rd caution flag of the night.
Not only is that a fear for NASCAR when a car comes out of the garage, that's one of the worst things about a driver. When you first go back out on the track in a car that's been wrecked, did they get everything tight? Did everything get lined back up or properly? How fast can I go in this car?
You know, the Labonte situation makes me think of Dick May, longtime journeyman driver from Watertown, New York, and everybody's favorite relief driver. Dick never tore up anybody's car, and he was usually available. One day at Dover, Delaware, he drove 5 different cars. They all fell out from under him. I don't believe he finished that race. Krista, pits are open.
Yes, they are. Right now, Jimmy Johnson saying his big issue is being tight. Chad Knaus, the crew chief, reminds him, I've got to wait on that transition. We're waiting for day to night. They will make a small adjustment on this stop. Meanwhile, Martin Truex saying, I need my right rear to stay with me longer. A track bar adjustment hopefully will fix that. Steve?
Krista, Matt Kenseth said on that last run his car became lazy. The front end was lazy, didn't want to turn. He needs some more grip, Matt.
Steve Polster, Kyle Busch said that he needed to back up the adjustment that Dave Rogers did on the last stop because the racetrack has changed once again. The sun has gone down. In turn 3, the car started to go tight.
Flames in Matt Kenseth's pit as he pulled away. Maybe a little bit of overflow from filling that car with fuel and something hot. Maybe a lug nut, maybe something else. But it's quickly extinguished. A hot time in Texas for Matt Kenseth and crew. Okay. As Matt Kenseth accelerates out of the pits, he spits a lug nut that came off the car. You'll see sparks behind the rear tire right there, and that ignites a little pool of fuel from the overflow. Here's what's fresh off the wire, brought to you by KFC. Steve Burns.
And I checked down here in the pits, Mike. These guys are tough guys. John Eicher is the guy you saw, the gas man that just went over the wall. There's a shot of John. And I said, are you all right? And he went, yeah, I'm fine. He goes, you don't need to talk to me. But there's a couple other guys watching the replay. So a little bit of excitement down here in the 20, but they're tough guys.
That's what's fresh off the wire. Thanks, Steve. Glad he's okay. Kyle Busch and Jeff Gordon are on the front row for the restart. Truex, Vickers, Gilliland, who stayed out and did not pit, with Kenseth, Edwards, and McMurray.
We saw that 56 car of Truex be mighty fast on new tires. Kyle was able to chase him down after a few laps, but let's watch that 56 and see if he can go.
Oh, Jimmy Johnson bobbling and backing up through the middle in turn 2.
Yeah, he was getting passed on the top and on the bottom of the racetrack that time.
A lot of moving and shaking going on these restarts.
But Darren, you've said it 2 or 3 times. These guys know that's when they better go because they've got those fresh tires.
Yes, sir. They know the tires are going to fall off a little bit. Take advantage of them while you got them. Use them while you got them.
Clint Bowyer making the best of Carl Edwards and Kurt Busch. Bowyer in 7th. Jeff Gordon up on the outside there. Lost the spot ahead, and now here comes Vickers as Gordon unable to hold off Kenseth, and now Vickers to the inside.
I really like the way these cars can run side by side. Up the corner, that's really hard to do, and that tells you the car's really sticking well.
Let's go back and see what happened to Jimmy Johnson as he went through 1 and 2 off the restart. Remember, white number 48.
The middle of the racetrack, it's a little rough right in there, and the car loses the front grip, just a little wiggles up the track, almost got into Kevin Harvick.
And Darrell, being right after a restart, after a pit stop as well, the air pressure down in the tires, possibly that splitter bottomed out.
Inside, line 48, inside, corner, engines right down here, top of 2.
Things are busy.
I believe that 18 car, he made one of those after the sun goes down adjustments. He is checking out again. He just ran 28.91.
And Carl Edwards needs one of those adjustments. There he goes by in his blue and white 99. He restarted 6th and is dropping quickly back to 11. How about our leader, Matt?
Mike, Texas has an impact in 2 different ways. Number 1, it pays one of the top 4 purses on the schedule. But number 2, the second race here at Texas falls during the chase. And Kyle Busch told Dave Rogers about 15 minutes ago, they were at a certain point in the race, he said, all right, he goes, I am great everywhere except turn 3, and I'm very loose there on entry. But remember, that part of the track is still in the sun. Make a note of that for when we come back in the fall.
Larry, Mike, I think one of the best things that happened to Kyle Busch was they missed the chase last year. It was a wake-up call for that whole team, Dave Rogers and Kyle, and they have really focused on being more consistent. And a track like this, it's in the chase, this is an important race for these guys tonight.
All right, the final 10 races of the season are the chase for the Sprint Cup. And we visit each of those tracks in the first half of the year. So a lot to do here besides just try to win tonight's event.
You know, on the right, we watched that bobble that Jimmy Johnson in the 48 made, and he continues to lose ground. He got passed by his teammate Casey Kane, and
almost went around.
That'd like to have been a lot more than ground there.
That's what he's been fighting ever since that race started. It's like they made some adjustment on the car. You heard Chad say, I'm not doing anything till the sun goes down. He better get in there and do something pretty quick.
You know, guys, we've seen it time and time again. Jimmy Johnson drives a loose race car. He wins a lot of races. He's really fast, and the reason why is because of his incredible car control. Watch this car jump out from underneath him. That's at 190 miles an hour. He never even loses a spot. So Jimmy can drive a loose car. That means he can overcome when the car isn't handling well, and that's what he's doing right now.
Michael, I've always said that 48 car is one of the hardest cars out there to drive because they run it on the edge all the time.
It's almost like Hammond's working on it, isn't it, Darrell?
Doesn't drive that bad.
Well, Johnson restarted 8th. He's back to 15th.
The little driver on the move, Mike, is Jamie McMurray in that one car. I've been watching him. He's just been chipping away. Started 11th, and now he's cracked the top 5. It's almost like he and his race team, they're starting to get their act together.
Good run in the early going here for McMurray. A lot of rumors surrounding that team. We'll get to that in a bit. But first, let's update Jimmy Johnson with Krista.
Yeah, you know, Mike, they made some adjustments on that car, but it might not have been enough because Jimmy talking about how loose the race car is right now. Earlier, Chad had talked about wanting to wait to take the big swing until it got dark. Right now, Jimmy coming on the radio and saying, it is just so loose. I am losing so much ground while others are gaining. Chad reminding him, it's track position too. You've got to get to where they're not racing. Jimmy reminding him, that's easier said than done.
I wonder if Chad was watching what happened off of turn 2 over just a second ago. But that's a driver and a crew chief that trust each other so much. Jimmy knows, Chad, here's what's going on. I got a problem, and Chad knows I got to fix it, and he will.
They're starting their 12th season together. Unprecedented, really, when you think about it in this sport.
And 2 cars behind them is this battle. Brian Newman, Marcus Ambrose, and you're riding with Mark Martin, 17th through 19th. This is all happening about 12 seconds behind the leader. Now, one car that is on the move is Greg Biffle. Biffle in 7th place right now, 6.3 seconds back. Here's tonight's Ford EcoBoost track facts. Ford with 11 Texas Cup wins here. Most of all manufacturers. They include Carl Edwards, who swept both races here in 08, and Greg Biffle, who won this race 1 year ago.
Yeah, Roush Fenway, 18 wins total here, 9 in the Sprint Cup. And congratulations to Jack Roush, inducted in the Texas Motorsports Hall of Fame here on Thursday night.
Jeff Gordon's looking pretty racy tonight too, boys.
Yep, third place. Taking it from Matt Kenseth, Gordon is the highest placed Chevrolet, surrounded by Toyotas right now, 97 laps into the NRA 500 at Texas Motor Speedway. With Kyle Busch 1.2 seconds up on the field. His older brother Kurt, who Kyle nipped for the pole, one of the last cars to qualify, battles Jamie McMurray. And McMurray and Montoya, the only thing that swirls around here more than the wind is the rumor mill that goes through the garage area. Hot rumor this weekend that Ganassi Racing team might be in negotiation for sale.
Heard that several times over the course of the race weekend. See Montoya in the 42. Speaking of Juan Pablo Montoya, Casey Kane in the 5, Jimmy Johnson in the 48, battling just outside the top 10.
Yeah, the 42 car is the one that puzzles me, Larry. Montoya just has not had any good luck. Car hadn't been that great. He's continued to struggle. Every week it's something. They need to get Montoya running better.
Mike, you mentioned at the top of the show, this is our first 500-mile race since the Daytona 500. This is truly our first start in daylight race into the night race with this Generation 6 car. I think there's a lot of unknowns there, especially when you talk about a little bit of a tire change they've made here. What this car is going to do as we get into the night as far as handling.
Well, that's why they had that test here on Thursday, Larry. They give these guys a day on Thursday, and it went into the, not into the night, but in the evening. It was cloudy, a little overcast here on Thursday. I think these teams really got some good data going into the race tonight.
100 laps in, Kyle Busch's lead constant over Martin Truex Jr. It's a hot time in Fort Worth tonight. .106 laps complete. Martin Truex has taken 0.2 of a second from Kyle Busch's lead. As Busch works traffic, it's now 1.5, first to second. Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch are the top 5. Still 31 cars on the lead lap, and grip, how these cars stick in the corner, continues to be and will be an issue all evening. Jeff Hammond.
Well, Mike, you guys keep talking about the grip of the racetrack and how much fun these guys are having with this new race car. So with the help of the Ford Racing Tech Cutaway car, I want to show you one of the reasons I believe that this is happening this year. A little bit different than years past. NASCAR used to let these guys run a rear sway bar and skew the back end. We talked about the car's dog tracking. Well, now what they're allowed to do is run rear camber. They can run as much as 3.5 degrees as far as positive in the left or negative in the right. And what does that really mean, folks? It really means that what we're doing is we're actually going to be putting more rubber to the racetrack itself. That means the contact patch in the rear of these cars is actually gripping the racetrack better than ever before, and the drivers like it. They feel more confident driving off in the corners and putting the power back down, exiting the corners, so which means, hey, we're having fun and we're running a lot faster.
And one of the things that was a huge concern when the season started was that camber in those rear tires and how the axles and drive plates, the running gear in the back, was going to handle that, and if there was going to be a problem. And so far, with the speed of these cars, and we've been to Martinsville, we've been to Bristol, we've been to Daytona, we've had absolutely no issues.
Yeah, it's been a lot like so many other things that we were a little bit apprehensive about, like electronic fuel injection, but we don't even talk about it today because it's kind of a moot point.
But to have all that rear camber, more than we've ever had before, what kind of adaptation for the driver?
Well, what it does is it just plants the car. We talk about corner speed, and that with the rear tires now, instead of riding on the edge of the outside edge of the tire on the right or the inside edge of the tire on the left, those tires are cambered over, so when they go through the banking, you have full compliance with both rear tires, pick up a ton of grip. You got to get a grip if you want to drive one of these things.
Well, one driver who's been hunting grip is Danica Patrick. She is now 2 laps down in 35th after starting 40th.
Car's moving all around, trying to keep the power down.
Do the best you can.
I'm trying. Nice work, guys. Thank you.
I know you've been moving around trying to find something that works for you, so just keep that up.
Yep, copy.
And there's your rookie battle right there. Stenhouse in the 17, Patrick in the 10. Stenhouse has been in the wall and in the garage. He's 39 laps down.
I know I mention this maybe even every so often, but watch how she saws on the wheel. You can't drive a car like that. You can't be juking that thing back left, right, left, right, left, right. There's something that they need to change, because I see her do this on the super speedways. Didn't do it so much at Martinsville last week, but here, every time she gets to the corner, look how she has to jerk the wheel around like that. They need to work on the steering box, caster, settle her down a little bit.
Darrell, do you think she chases the bumps with her race car?
I think it's something. I don't know what it is, but if I was looking at these pictures and I saw them week after week, I'd say, what do we got to do to fix that?
It does look similar to her performance at California the last time we were on a super speedway.
Exactly. There's always that shaking the wheel getting in the corners if there's no feel there.
Race leader Kyle Busch has been out front for 79 of the 114 laps. Took the lead from Martin Truex, took it back a bit ago, and now he's stretched Truex by 2.2 seconds with Jeff Gordon third, Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch the top 5.
Boy, I've been watching Dale Jr. in this 88 car, and all of a sudden he is rim riding. I mean, right out next to that wall. Don't know if he hadn't touched it a time or two, but he is picking them up and putting them down right now. He just went by Greg Biffle, and that car has really come alive in that high groove.
And Greg Biffle in that 16, I was watching him early in this run, and he was catching guys so quick he almost couldn't find a place to go by him. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 fighting his way back as well.
Watch that 88 come off that corner back there and just head down that back straightaway. Probably running right around 200 miles an hour as he gets down the back.
Well, now let's update Kevin Harvick and the 5 of Casey Kane. This is a fight for 12th place. It's about 15 seconds off the lead, and Kane makes the pass. The 2 Penske cars have not fared well since their trip through the inspection lane a couple of times in pre-race. Matt?
And Mike Joey Logano, who qualified 18th, but as you mentioned, had to start at the back. He has climbed all the way up to 19th, and they've made adjustments on both stops. And Joey says that the last adjustment, which was air pressure, and the fact that the sun has gone down, the track is in shade. It's got a lot more grip. His car is much better. He has migrated, though, off the bottom, moving around, trying to find even more grip here at Texas.
Well, he's passed his teammate, Keselowski, who also had inspection issues, and now they're 2 spots apart.
Mike, if we just said how important that camber and all that rear, that gives you so much rear grip. There was something going on with the 2 and the 22. They took the rear end housings out of those cars. I was wondering, I asked Larry, I said, do you think it'll affect the way they race tonight? Larry, I believe it is.
Yeah, I think they're going to need several pit stops to make adjustments to try to get that car back where it was maybe before all this came down.
Ironic, isn't it, that last year Brad Keselowski called out another team for possible rear end irregularities, which were never found. And now here's the Penske team having a tough time in inspection, and Brad working hard to stay in the top 20 here at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a driver that's got his hands full. That's a car that is not in the racetrack, and it's all over the place, and he's doing a whale of a job just to keep it out of the wall. Matter of fact, I thought I was looking at Danica, his steering wheel there for a second, the way he was fighting that thing. He's like fighting bees up in there.
Keselowski 19th, Logano 18th. And everybody trying to chase down Kyle Busch. Trying for the weekend sweep. A winner here last night, and he's now led 85 of 120 laps tonight.
Mike, Darrell mentioned about Kyle not making the chase last year, and that reality kind of set in. If you look at his last 10 races, 4 the end of last year and the 6 this year, the win at Bristol, but how about 8 top 5 finishes?
Wow. Kyle Busch leads Martin Truex by 2 seconds.
Here in Texas, Kyle Busch leads Martin Truex Jr. 126 laps in. Time for a race break. With Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers, Jamie McMurray, Carl Edwards. Pit stops, we're almost there.
Yeah, you have to be mistake-free, and you can see Jamie McMurray's having some trouble on his pit stop. These guys drive to pit road so hard. Matt Kenseth sliding his tires to get to pit road. Chris, you can't give up anything. Crew stops, and the way the driver gets to the pit's important, Steve.
Well, Michael, the 20 car has gotten loose since their last pit stop. He said it was loose getting in the corner and loose on the exit, so they're going to make some changes on that 20. Matt.
And Steve, problems for the 16 to Greg Biffle. He says it's absolutely loose, sideways. I can barely hold on to it. He was calling at one point of even pulling his shim out of the left front, besides any other big adjustments. Meanwhile, the 9 of Marcos Ambrose, he has been both tight and loose. Absolutely no rear grip on this last run. Krista?
The plan for Martin Truex was to come in around lap 135, but he said the car was getting worse and worse, and his other drivers dodged onto pit road. So did Martin. Steve?
Krista, Kurt Busch has done a great job of battling back to be inside the top 5. Again, his car too loose. They're going to make a chassis adjustment, 4 tires and Sunoco fuel.
Tony Stewart's going to have a hard time getting out of his pit. Look at the angle at which he's in the pit. Only the right rear tire is outside the box, so it's a legal stop. It's not pretty. Krista.
Jeff Gordon has been having a really strong run tonight, but he had said the car is not cutting the middle as well and is loose off the turns. Jeff Gordon down and away.
You see, Kyle Busch, our leader, continues to make laps out there. Steve, he can't afford to stay out long. Everybody else is on pit road.
Larry Mack, Brian Vickers says if you tighten me up, we'll be good. 4 tires and an air pressure adjustment. Matt.
Meanwhile, an update of Kevin Harvick, who came from the back, climbed into the top 10 and started to fade. His car absolutely loose near the end of that run. Air pressure change on the 29.
All right, Kyle Busch is coming in now. Here's why he did not come in 1 lap ago. Because Tony Stewart slid around in front of Greg Biffle, and they thought that Kyle would not be able to easily get into his pit with Stewart's car hanging out in pit road.
And what I saw there with Tony's car, he has so much rear brake in that car, Mike, that it locked the rear tires up and it spun the car into the pit box. They use a lot of rear brake to help the car turn.
Kyle is in, Matt.
And Kyle Busch is. He says the car on that run was absolutely loose. On his scale, though, not bad over the course of that run at both ends of the racetrack. The 22 of Jonah Logano is in as well. His car wasn't bad. Both cars are away.
Jimmy Johnson picks up the race lead with Ryan Newman. David Reagan missed his pit, and now Johnson comes in front of Krista.
Yes, Jimmy Johnson is in. Remember this run, they had struggled. They were back in the pack. Well, around lap 110, the car came around to Jimmy. You see adjustments being made there. The back of the car, the 4 tires going on. The white, the Dover white paint scheme here in Texas. Jimmy Johnson, gone.
Look at those LED lights on the helmet of the tire changers so they can see the lug nuts. That's pretty cool.
So that leaves Ryan Newman out on the racetrack as the race leader. He and David Reagan are the only ones who have not made their stop. Reagan now makes it around to pit road. Joe Nemechek is in.
And what Ryan Newman, Matt Borland are banking on is a caution possibly coming out. But right now they're losing close to 2 seconds a lap to all the drivers with 4 fresh tires.
Now we're told that the Tony Stewart pit stop is under review. I'm going to look at that. The NASCAR officials are, as Newman, Stewart's teammate, brings his Chevrolet off the racetrack, and he'll be the last car to pit in this sequence.
We know Stewart's not going to get any style points for that pit stop. We know that.
Steve?
Ryan Newman's been loose since the drop of the green flag, Mike. They're going to give him 4 tires fuel. They'll make an air pressure adjustment. They'll also make a chassis adjustment. They just can't get that 39 tightened up.
Now this is the feed that NASCAR Race Control gets from our Fox telecast as they take a look. And there are all the views that are available from the different cameras, synced up the time code so they can look at the issue from different angles as seen by our cameras.
Could that be, Larry, could that be equipment outside the pit box, or the tires are all in the box?
And the officials right there.
Right there, I think if any part of the race car, not just the tire, if any part of that car is touching that front line, and the problem's going to be they went ahead and completed part of the pit stop, so that'll be a penalty. I think under green that would be a drive-through penalty.
So that is under review.
Well, remember we had a situation last week where the car was, the right side of the splitter was over the line, but not the tire. At least that's the way we saw it. And I think that's why they're taking a little longer in this situation to be sure that the inspector sees what he thinks he sees.
So Stewart was 26th and on the lead lap prior to the pit stop. He's currently in 28th. And Brad Keselowski's on pit road. Now remember, that car took a long time getting through inspection. They had to change the rear end housing. It was out of spec. And Keselowski back on pit road.
Yeah, I don't think it's just a matter of they had it out of adjustment or anything like that. NASCAR took the rear end housings from the 2 and 22. Got to think there's something that NASCAR's not happy about with that infraction.
Keselowski back in the race. He's lost at least one lap and currently 30th. There's his teammate Joey Logano, one lap down, who is 23rd, Matt.
And down here in the Keselowski pits, the crew members are looking over the wheels. Brad thought he might have a loose left rear. Right now, the crew members are checking the tires over. Very diligent. The fronts look fine, but they're looking at the left rear and right rear.
And where they're going to have a huge struggle is he is now 2 laps down, and we have right now probably 8 to 9 drivers that's 1 lap down.
And you see both the Penske teams looking over those tires, because certainly the rear end housing that's in those race cars right now would have a different alignment than they had planned to run tonight. So a lot of adjustments.
Yeah, it could be. It could also be. It looked like they were looking at the holes in the wheel to see if the wheel was loose and it wallowed the hose out any. Maybe the spacers that are on this rear end housing, a backup rear end housing, is not allowing the wheel to get tightened up all the way.
Looks like Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42 car, we just saw him on pit road. Maybe he felt something in one of the right side tires. They did just change the right side.
So Kyle Busch came into the pits with a 2.9 second lead over Martin Truex. He now has a 3.6 second lead over the new second place driver, Jeff Gordon. .145 laps complete as we ride along with David Rudiman. Dr. Pepper in-car camera, 20th place. Let's have an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Kyle Busch has led the most laps tonight. Out of 146, he's led 108 of them. Get unlimited access with the NASCAR Mobile 13 app and truly unlimited data while on the Sprint network. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. When Pablo Montoya made an unscheduled pit stop, they found that a wheel was loose. The car was vibrating. They've changed that wheel, changed that side. He's back out. And the number 2 of Brad Keselowski, Travis Geisler, director of competition there at Penske Racing, told Matt Yoakum that the holes in the wheel, the bolt holes, were not elongated, but it looked as if some piece of metal debris had gotten between the wheel and the hub when that wheel was mounted up, which would have caused that vibration. And Keselowski made the stop. He's got a couple new tires, and he's back out.
Mike, at these speeds, the way we go around this racetrack right now, if you have anything wrong, any minor little thing, it's so much bigger than it has been in the past because we're going through the turns so fast. And here we got an ice battle with Kurt Busch and Dale Jr. here for 5th place.
Yeah, I believe every stop they have made Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s 88 car better, but I also possibly believe the conditions are favoring his race car.
I think that's cooling down. That's the experience, Larry. I mean, that's the guy, the crew chiefs that know what the track's going to do when the sun goes down and it cools off.
Let's go to the 88 pit. And Matt, caution's on the speedway. Debris in turn number 2 is the reason for the 4th caution of the night at lap 149.
Now this would be a huge gamble for Paul Wolfe and Brad Keselowski because we know how much tires are worth, but the only hope they may have, since they've only run about 12 laps, being 2 laps down, possibly stay out and take the waiver round.
You got to do it.
I think you have to.
You got to do it.
You've got so many drivers 1 lap down.
You'll never get back if you don't.
Well, he just shut the engine off, indicating he's trying to save fuel, Larry, so that would go along with that strategy of not pitting.
Absolutely. I mean, I think at a track this size, knowing how many long green runs you get, anytime you can save fuel, I don't care how early in the race, is a plus.
Pace car has the field in tow in the back straightaway. And Kyle Busch's lead of 2.8 seconds over Jeff Gordon is erased with this caution flag. 20 cars on the lead lap. 19 on the lead lap. It'll be 20 as Joey Logano gets the free pass on this fourth caution flag of the night. Jamie McMurray being sent around the caution car to get back on the lead lap. Apparently they picked him up before Kyle Busch. And they'll keep the pits closed one more lap as a result. And get that straightened out. We've received no further word on the Tony Stewart pit stop, so no call on Stewart's stop. They made repairs on the right side, backed the car up slightly, changed the left side tires when he almost spun the car around coming into pits on the last stop.
But you know, back to Jamie McMurray, that makes sense, because I could not for the life of me figure out what in the world went on, because he was sitting there running up in the top 12 or 15, and you could see the official.
Now, they were holding him for pitting outside the box. The rear wheels were over the rear line of the pit box. But they held him for 2 laps when the penalty should have been 1. That's why he's being waved around.
Yeah, just to try to clear this up as simple as possible. That box it's like walls. But the front line, no part of the car can be touching it. But the outside line and the back line, part of the car can be across that, but the right front tire, and when you look at this back line, neither one of the rear tires can be touching that line.
You know, Larry, those lines are very vague, though. You know, when you look at them, the white line back here, they're very vague.
A coat of paint would be nice, wouldn't it?
I think they ought to freshen that up.
This time, pit road is open, and here come the lead lap cars, led by Kyle Busch. Krista?
Jeff Gordon said on the last stop, whatever adjustment they made, it made the car worse. He said he just couldn't turn the middle, so they're going to go back on that adjustment for the 24. Meanwhile, the 56 also adjusting the car. He's just a little bit loose in the left rear. Steve?
Krista McKenzie saying that he feels like he's on top of the track. On that run, he had less rear grip. Matt Yocum.
And the 18 of Kyle Busch in the bottom corner of your screen. He says his car needs more side bite from the center all the way through the corner, and his car was loose on entry, and he is away. Solid stop by these guys. Dave Rogers, air pressure changed. Did he win the battle off pit road, Mike?
Kyle Busch out first.
Hard to beat somebody when they're number one pit stop.
There's the race off, and handily by 2 car lengths ahead of Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Martin Truex, and Kurt Busch.
That 88 car, Larry, just keeps creeping closer to the front.
Let's check in with Chris Myers and Michael Waltrip.
And a race break, Mike, 228 miles through this 500-mile race. We're glad you're watching NASCAR on Fox from the Texas Motor Speedway. Began in daylight. Problems on lap 43 for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. with a tire. In fact, for the Roush Fenway Racing team, ineffective and problems all night. Not a good night for the Fords so far. Kyle Busch dominating, leading more than 100 laps, taking the lead from Martin Truex Jr., who led for 33 laps. It's been a good night for Toyota. But problems with Matt Kenseth on pit road. A restart, Jimmy Johnson, who's had problems all night. He's dominated the last 2 races here in Texas, been loose on the restart. And in the pits, even veteran drivers having problems. And Michael Waltrip, the more we have these long green flag runs, I guess the more of a test it is for drivers and pit crews, and will be in the second half of this race.
Yeah, you see Jamie Murray here. He was out of his box. Ryan Newman had a problem on the right rear when he made a pit stop. So a lot of guys have fell a lap down during that green flag pit stop. We talked before they started pitting, you can't make mistakes. A lot of veteran teams did.
Already, we've had more cautions in this race than all of last year. 4 so far, but certainly not enough for helping with some of the adjustments, including Jimmy Johnson. Will the evening conditions help them adjust to get back into the top part of this race?
Well, Chad Knaus, he's a master at adjusting this car. He knows the way Jimmy talks, what Jimmy needs. We saw how loose Jimmy was, but the sun's going down, so this is going to play into their hands. This car could be really strong if they can just get it tightened up a little bit.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., who started 6th, came in here 3rd in points, still looking for his first win of the year, but we've noticed his times are getting faster here as the race goes on.
Yeah, this team stumbled mightily last week at Martinsville, and they wanted to put that behind them, and man, they've done so. As this race presses forward, the car's gotten faster. You know what that does, Chris? It pumps up the team. They came to pit road last time and picked up spots, so the whole group is charged up about this race.
And Martin Truex Jr., let's refer to Michael Waltrip Racing, winless in his last 209 races, coming off his worst finish last week at Martinsville, but we showed him leading. He's hung around the front of this race throughout the first half and actually dabbled in a little child psychology to help him approach this race and his season.
Yeah, sports psychologists are an important part of any athlete's genre. You have to understand where you are mentally. Golfers, baseball players, basketball, all of them use sports psychologists. We have one at Michael Waltrip Racing that all the team guys can use and lean on, and Martin has really leaned up against the sports psychologist to try to help them through this little bit of a stumble they've gotten off to the 2013 season with.
And looking ahead, this is our first primetime race here, NASCAR on Fox, but over the next few weeks, we're going to be in Kansas, the STP 400 on Saturday, April 27th, but then back in prime time for Richmond, the Toyota Owners 400. Then Sunday, May 5th, we'll be going to Talladega, the Aaron's 499, our hour-long pre-race show. Michael Waltrip will be racing in that one as well. So an important part of the schedule. And again, on a 1.5-mile race, Michael, this is what the drivers run most on throughout the course of the season. And it's your race break to the moment. Let's head back upstairs to Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Thanks, Chris. 9 drivers took the wave around on this caution. That'll put Travis Kvapil and Josh Wise back on the lead lap. Keselowski also got a lap back. Montoya, Patrick, and others. Kyle Busch and Jeff Gordon will bring him down to the restart with Earnhardt, Truex, Kurt Busch and Kenseth, Almirola and Johnson, Harvick and Ambrose. The first 10 of now 22 lead lap cars were back under green.
And those 9 drivers that took that wave around, they want to see a caution real quick.
They want to see it, not be it.
Boy, Carl Edwards, there's something wrong with him. He's not going at all.
Well, remember, he was reporting that he was having some engine issues.
Krista?
Yeah, he's had a lot of issues. You know, he mentioned the motor back on lap 75. Then he thought it was a bad set of tires. They came in, they were the first one to pit back on lap 125. They hadn't said anything about the motor then. They were just talking about the bad tire set. But then he came on the radio and said, we are in trouble. This car is bad.
Kurt Busch fighting with Martin Truex and the 20 of Kenseth, trying to stay up in the top 5.
Here comes Eric Almirola in the 43 car. He's been working for about 100 laps trying to overcome that issue he had on a pit stop on the first caution.
Yeah, that 43 and 9, both those petty cars, they qualified very well, 3rd and 4th, and right now that 43 car looks pretty racy.
There was it, you've said, a set of new tires, kind of like Superman's cape.
It's so, I call them Mr. Feel Goods, because they do feel good. Like to see those stickers. I like to see that paper flying off of it.
How about a little NASCAR on Fox Saturday night, Texas style? Crank them up. Newman 1 lap down. Burton moves ahead. Kyle Busch in the lead by 1 second over Jeff Gordon. Who's going to prevail in the second half of this 500-miler? We'll have our mid-race report right after this.
Glad to have you watching NASCAR on Fox from the Texas Motor Speedway. I am Chris Myers, and checking in now with the mid-race report. Toyotas have dominated the first half of this race. Twice before, Kyle Busch has been the leader here in Texas at the midpoint, but he's yet to win 3 third-place finishes. Martin Truex Jr., who hasn't won in over 200 races, but has been at the front of the pack for most of this race so far. Darrell Waltrip, who you keeping an eye on?
Well, I believe tonight's the night. I know that you just said Kyle has led the most laps but haven't won, but he sat on the pole with a blazing new track record. He's dominated the race so far. How can anything go wrong? It's got to be the 18 tonight.
What about Dale Earnhardt Jr.? We talked about him just before this last restart. The pit crew pumped up. They get him a great stop. Dale Jr. drives out on the racetrack and he's hauling. That car's fast. Look for Dale Jr. to close the deal tonight.
Michael Martin Truex Jr. said this past week, no more points racing. We're here to win and try to win races. Paying off so far. Is this the night Steve Burns he can break that winless streak?
Yeah, Larry Mack, don't overlook Kurt Busch, though. It's been a pretty long dry spell for the former champ. At the beginning of the race, Kurt Busch said, what happened on the grip? They just made an adjustment to help Kurt Busch get off the corner. His exit, Mike Joy.
Well, Steve, on Friday, Kyle Busch stole the pole from his older brother. They started here side by side. Kyle's going to lead the halfway lap here, and the last time he did that, Kurt won the race. Chris?
And Mike, Matt Kenseth, who has won here twice before and has won from the back of the pack, had some pit road problems, currently running 6th, worth keeping an eye on. And Jimmy Johnson in the thick of things, despite some pit road problems there. Dale Earnhardt Jr. overheard on the radio asking his crew to put a spotlight on his marker for pit stops so he could see it better. Pit stops have already had a major impact on this race, likely to have a great effect over the final 100 laps. And that is your NASCAR on Fox mid-race report. Kyle Busch leading Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Martin Truex Jr. And we'll have more from Texas in just a moment.
177 laps complete in Texas. We're just past halfway, and here comes Kurt Busch onto pit road, Steve.
And his chances at a victory seemingly up in smoke now, Mike Joy. He just said that the engine was starting to skip, starting to miss, so he makes that hard left-hand turn into the garage area. His opportunity to win may be over, Larry Mack.
Yeah, Steve, that's been our theme since the drop of the green flag. He just turned his fastest lap of the race 20 laps ago. But where I think these guys are going to be real nervous is that's an Earnhardt Childress Racing engine. We've already seen some failures earlier.
He was 7th when the car lost speed and went to the garage.
Yeah, Harvick lost a couple of motors. The 27 car Menard lost a motor, and now the 78 of Busch lost an engine. Those are all ECR.
Jeff Gordon trying to fill up Kyle Busch's rear view mirror, but now Kyle, whose advantage dropped to about 3.5 tenths, now Kyle's picking it back up again. So we've gone from daylight to darkness. Let's go high above Texas Motor Speedway to Jeff Hammond.
Mike, up here you can really see so much. And the biggest thing you can see, because we keep talking about going from daylight to dark, are the shadows right now that are on this racetrack. Remembering, this is the first time that we've raced under the lights this year. I think we're having some problems not only on pit road, but up here, even with the spotter stand, you got to be real careful as you clear your guys down the back straightaway through the corners, because from our up cameras, you can see the shadows on the racetrack creating those dark spots. You've got to be careful from this position up here not to get your driver in trouble by clearing him in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Thanks, Jeff. 3rd place has heated up. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Martin Truex, nose to tail.
The 88 car has been looking really good tonight. He's made some good gains in the pits and on the track. Dale Jr.'s got a pretty good car tonight.
Boy, Martin Truex Jr. in that 56 car, did you see how far he drove it down into turn 1 that time?
Well, it was hard to see with the glare at turn 3. Let's listen on Dale Earnhardt Jr. about how vision conditions are now.
I think we need to get a spotlight like you use the spotlight deer and just have somebody shine that pit board. That back lid, can't you see that? It's not working.
Yeah, no, it's not working. I think it's on the front excellent. But we got a light. We're prepared, man. We're kind of country. We got one of them spotlights, so we'll do it.
Steve Letarte.
But I think that's right in line with what Jeff Hammond was just talking about. This is the first night race here in 2013, and if any change has been made to anything, then it throws the driver a curveball, Darrell.
Yeah, we saw the 48 pit crew with the tire changers, the LED lights they have on their helmets. That's to help them see the lug nuts. Same thing for the driver. You come down through all those pit boards are up and down, man, it's hard to find your pit box.
Jeff Gordon is closed back in on Kyle Busch. This is as close as he's been. It's a quarter of a second, but it's only 3 car lengths.
Another car that's gotten better as the evening has gone on is that 24. Jeff Gordon is inching in on the leader.
47 car slow on the backstretch. That is Michael McDowell.
Sounds like you dropped the valve and then all of a sudden dropped 2 or 3. So
that's Michael McDowell in relief of Bobby Labonte.
Mike, I think this may be a theme of the evening, engine problems.
Well, the other theme is Big Daddy wants the lead of this race, Jeff Gordon in that 24 car. He has been nipping away at Kyle Busch in that 18.
Got that thing working around the bottom pretty good and making nice time in the corners, catching up with Kyle. Kyle's a little up the track. That gives the bottom to Jeff, and he's taking advantage of it.
And here comes Gordon for the lead.
That high line, there's so much momentum out there. It takes a little while for that bottom line to prevail, but I think Jeff will be able to do it here in 3 and 4.
But Darrell, to your point earlier, we would not have seen this with that Generation 5 car.
And right behind them for third, Dale Jr., Martin Truex.
But Kyle Busch, he's not going to just roll over and let Jeff Gordon have this lead.
That's the Kyle Busch that I'm accustomed to seeing. Sometimes it's better to kind of let Jeff have the position now rather than race real hard. I'm not saying that he should just pull over and let Jeff go, but there's times in the race when you're better off to save your stuff.
Coming to you here, 4,000 if you can see it, real slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. Right.
Pit road.
Coming to you, Stevie. I think the battery's dead or something.
Wow.
I think he came on pit road without any electronics. He looked a little fast.
Matt?
All right, let's try that first. Change your battery.
And Mike, that call from Dale Earnhardt Jr. very sudden.
Fuel pressure was down. Fuel pressure was good. Water pressure was down.
And you're hearing the conversation back and forth as Dale Earnhardt Jr. trying to give Steve Letarte information, try and diagnose the issues on the 88. Boy, what a great run he had going, Mike. It looked like this could be the night that he scored his first win of the season.
The battery went dead. All right, Zimmer, put the tire back on it, Joe. We'll run the second battery, just find it back up.
He was in third place, and right in front of him comes Danica Patrick. In for a stop, unscheduled.
Larry, you can't switch from one battery to the other?
I know most drivers, they have their car where you can throw a switch. Now, the reason they never raise the hood, the batteries for these race cars, it's in a box in front of that left rear tire. That's the reason they had the left rear tire off working there. But it's almost like they had to swap it over manually, which I don't understand.
No, I don't either. I thought they had a switch they could flip from one battery to the other.
Earnhardt was third when he pitted. 196 laps complete. Jeff Gordon, your leader, and a lot of pit stops under green. Matt.
And Marcos Ambrose had a great qualifying run. Not able to pay it off at this point. The car was extremely loose the previous run. Then it went tight, so they made a wedge adjustment, and that's where it is at this point as well. Meanwhile, the 16 of Greg Biffle. Earlier, he said the car was just absolutely sideways loose. Then the car swung back around to the tight side. Wedge adjustment for the 16. Meanwhile, the 2 of Brad Keselowski. What a night he has had. 2 laps down, took the wave around, got the lap back, and he says the car is much better on this run. Steve.
On that last stop, Clint Boyer said, "What'd you guys do to the car? You killed it. Please help me keep up to the racetrack." That's the 15, Clint Boyer. The 11, Brian Vickers. They've been trying to keep up as well. Their car's been loose. Krista?
Martin Truex also in, talking about his car, just trying to adjust for the night conditions. He's been getting a little loose, and now much better right now. Also Casey Kane, and Casey Kane been relatively quiet. They have made the same adjustments throughout the entire night. Air pressure and wedge. That has been their game plan. That is what they're sticking with.
Jimmie Johnson, Matt Kenseth in, and Kyle Busch coming down pit road. Krista.
Yeah, Jimmie Johnson also, the car really starting to come around to him as we kind of expected, because as it got to the nighttime, we figured that's what would happen. They made a track bar adjustment on the last stop. No adjustment here, Steve.
Matt Kenseth is in. He said the car took off all right on that last stop, but he needs some changes. Matt.
And Kyle Busch is in. We're going on the left side. Kyle says the car is over-rotating, especially near the edge of the corner. Track bar adjustment. Krista?
And Jeff Gordon so good at this point right now in this race. He said he's just a little bit tight in the center. You see that wrench going in the back there to make that adjustment to loosen him up just a little bit for this next run.
Now, when pit stops began, Gordon had a half-second lead over Kyle Busch, who was already in and out of pit road. Dale Earnhardt Jr. came in, changed tires on the car, had to come back in and serve a penalty for too fast entering the pit road on his first stop. That's when he lost the battery, which meant he had no tachometer to judge his speed.
Yeah, now he's 4 laps down, so a good night's gone really bad.
Kurt Busch is back on track. Steve reported they had an issue with the fuel rail to the fuel injection that sent them to the garage. They managed to correct that. Remember, that fuel's under high pressure with the fuel injection system, and Kurt is back on track.
Now, Martin Truex Jr. in a 56, he now has the lead, but what that came from was pitting a couple of laps before Jeff Gordon and 1 lap before Kyle Busch. He got the advantage of those fresh tires, even just for that lap or 2. I might add also Brad Keselowski, who took the wave around and was 1 lap down. He had more issues on that pit stop. He slid through his pit box. He had to push him back.
But you know, Larry, the 18 car came out of the pits after that exchange ahead of the 24, so they had a whale of a pit stop to get the lead off, or to get ahead of the 24, because the 24 was ahead of him when they started this cycle.
Let's get a little more on the issue that sent Kurt Busch for a while to the garage. Steve?
And Mike, you're basically all over it. There was a fuel rail leading to the carburetor. When they got the fuel rail replaced and they cranked it up, the engine sounded great. Initially, Kurt said it was skipping and missing, but that wasn't the case. It was just because the fuel rail had malfunctioned.
That's something that pertains to the fuel injection. Now, it's the rail that runs along that feeds the fuel into the engine.
But that has to be a huge relief for the Earnhardt Childress Racing engine guys.
Yeah, as we ran down the list of engine failures, that was one more they didn't need.
Yes.
Martin Truex in command, 203 laps into the NRA 500 in Texas. Kyle Busch 1 second back. Jeff Gordon, Jimmie Johnson, Matt Kenseth are the Fast Five after pit stops. 3 Toyotas and 2 Chevrolets. The first Ford in the race, Eric Almirola in 6th. Ahead of his teammate Marcus Ambrose and Greg Biffle. In just 3 weeks, we head to NASCAR's biggest track. Aaron's Dream Weekend at Talladega. A can't miss weekend. You can be part of Dega Nation. Tickets start at just $55. Free on-site camping. Here's the phone number and the website.
Tell you, as this race has ebbed and flowed, though, it's been interesting to see how some guys struggled in the early part of the race, but when the sun went down and the track cooled off, cars have really changed. A couple of guys come to my attention, and one of them is this 16 car, Greg Biffle. His car is much better. Marcus Ambrose and Eric Almirola, those are a couple of cars that are really good right now, the 2 Petty cars.
And Casey Kane on the move.
Kane's got a good car now that the sun's gone down, the track's cooled off. There's Marcus, and he's running really well right now. He's running 7th, right behind his teammate, Eric Almirola, who's just up ahead of him.
Darrell, another driver I think that the nighttime is complimenting, and I think they've just made the right adjustments. Think about Jimmie Johnson in that 48 car, sideways off the corner when the sun was out, was still daylight. Now he's up there in the top 5 running 4th right now.
Yeah, right now, you know what Jimmie Johnson's doing? He's letting the race come to him. These other people are having problems and they're having issues in the pits and their cars are not handling like they were earlier. It's coming back to him.
Probably a lot like that same driver in that 20 car there, Matt Kenseth. He's probably on the same game plan as Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah. Here, kitty, 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 kitty.
Their lap time's pretty close to each other, within a 1/10 of a second. Eric Almirola, he started 3rd. His teammate Ambrose 4th. They've been running together most of the night. They're now 6th and 7th, about 7.5 seconds off the lead now.
They qualified so well, both cars did, and really running well tonight. Good to see.
And there's Ambrose, who is 7th, 9 seconds back. 208 laps complete in Texas. Martin Truex Jr. out in front by 3/4 of a second. Martin Truex leading. New 2nd place car. Jeff Gordon has passed Kyle Busch for 2nd place. Watch the 18.
Yeah, hey, watch this. I mean, this should have been a wrecked race car right here. This is just how quick this kid can react to a car when it gets out of control. That thing should have nosed into the wall, but he just barely, look at the right side of the car. Didn't even knock the letters off the tires.
No, that's about as close as you could come to the right rear and not hit it, though.
Great save.
Yeah, he'd been full throttle for a while by the time he got there.
Now Kyle continues, Matt, 2.2 seconds off the lead.
Mike, after that stop, he was telling Dave Rogers that the car was a little too stuck through the center of the corner, not rolling like he'd like it to, but he felt like that was because the car was down on the splitter. And then after he hit the wall, he asked his team to survey the damage. They said it looks fine, just scuffed it up a little bit. And Kyle is saying the car is just simply really loose on entry, and he's lost the balance on exit. Really loose, obviously, by scraping the fence.
Yeah, Matt, it is bad loose. It kind of looked like Jimmie Johnson did earlier in the race, where the thing just wants to jump sideways.
Speaking of Jimmy, he's in 4th right now, 3.4 seconds back. Krista?
Mike, you have talked about how the chemistry between crew chief Chad Knaus and Jimmie Johnson is so important. Chad's saying Texas is the kind of track where a driver needs to be able to feel what he needs. A few laps ago, Jimmy came on the radio and did just that.
What you got going on there, Hot Rod? I feel all right. I think our car's better on the long haul. I don't know why I'm not missing them. I feel pretty efficient here. A little snappy loose off the 2, but everything else is still pretty good.
What's snappy loose?
Well, that's kind of what we saw with him off turn 2. That's what we just saw with Kyle Busch. That's when you're going through the corner in the gas, and what was that? It snaps on you. Just it's unpredictable. Scare you. Really scare you.
You know, guys, these teams depend so much on side force. Jimmie Johnson real loose early in the race. His car's intact. But when Kyle Busch slipped off turn 4, he got that right rear corner of the car into the outside wall. I know it was minimal damage, but that damage could be enough that won't allow Kyle Busch to get that car back the way he needs it. Side force is very important. He caved in that very right rear corner of the car, and that's where you generate most of the side force from. Side force is just the way the car lays against the air in the corner. These cars depend on that air to keep them handling, and you don't want to mess with that right side. He's got his right rear a little bit dented.
Yeah, Michael, I've been watching the lap times, and his lap times were off for a few laps there, but it looks like to me, just as far as where he's running right now, he's definitely running just as quick as the guys up there leading the race like Martin Truex Jr. and Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, that snappy thing, that's something you got to be sure it's not going to do it again. You know, if you can't stand that thing to do that to several laps in a row, or you will be in the fence.
Chris Dale Earnhardt Jr., who was running 3rd, and the electrics in the car went dead. He came down pit road, and without his tack to guide him as to speed, was too fast entering. They switched over to the alternate battery, came around, came back in to change tires, and had to come around again to serve the speeding penalty. And Junior is well back, 33rd, 4 laps down. That's Mike Bliss in the white car as Martin Truex and Jeff Gordon fight for the lead.
We sort of saw this last week, Larry, with the 24 car. Wasn't real good on the short runs, but had a car that really did hang in there and got better as the run went along. We're seeing it again tonight. Got a really nice long setup, but we got a caution.
Back it down, back it down, caution down, back it down.
Somebody caught the wall in the back straightaway. Could have been David Rudiman. And that'll be caution flag number 5. There is Rudiman. And he'll be the red car. Not that one. That's Trevor Bayne. And just in front of him, it's Travis Kvapil, Rudiman's teammate, who bit the wall coming off 2. Newman will get the free pass.
But Darrell, you're right about Jeff Gordon. That's exactly the way he was a while ago when he ran down Kyle Busch in that 18 car.
Got a car that really gets better as the run goes along. Nice setup.
As the pace car collects the field, let's hand out a few attaboys. George Brunholzer III won the Whelen Southern Modified Tour race tonight, South Boston. Mike Stefanik on the pole for the Icebreaker with the Modifieds at Thompson, Connecticut tomorrow. Camping World Truck Series there at Rockingham, North Carolina tomorrow. And Ben Kennedy, great-grandson of NASCAR founder Bill France Sr., started from the pole and held off Gray Gaulding to win his first NASCAR touring race, the K&N East Series event at Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola tonight. Congratulations.
So I can guarantee his mom's happy.
Krista?
Jeff Gordon in saying his race car just a little bit tight, especially in the center and in traffic. He asked for a small adjustment. They also need to clean the grill. He picked up some paper. Meanwhile, Martin Truex struggling a bit. He said, I need something. They're going with wedge, Steve.
Krista, Matt Kenseth getting a chassis adjustment. He said, I feel like I'm hurting the right front. So a chassis adjustment for the 20, Matt.
And Kyle Busch's team making chassis adjustments across the back, both wedge and track bar, trying to get the balance back to how it was a few runs ago. Absolutely free on that last run. He entered pit road in 3rd, and that's where he'll leave.
Wow, what a drag race to the line.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't see how they were all going to make it. They kept pulling out in front of each other, but they squeezed through.
Yeah, we were definitely running out of pit road there.
Martin Truex wins the race off pit road. 20 cars, 19 cars on the lead lap. And an odd thing happened to Juan Pablo Montoya trying to come onto pit road to make his stop. Right in front of him was Dave Blaney. Here's Blaney's pit. Everything in there is red and white. Montoya tried to follow Blaney into his pit instead of going down to his own. There's a look at it. Trying to get in there. Gets squeezed off a little there by Blaney. Has to pull out and come in. So it was more of the squeeze play than the fact that those two pits look very similar.
You know, it seems odd to me tonight that so many guys are having trouble finding their pit box on pit road. We've heard a number of guys say, I need a light, I need this, I need something else. Maybe they still have the tint on some of the windshields, or maybe they're still got tinted shields on the helmets. I'm not sure, but something's odd.
Now, Greg Biffle was too fast entering his pit, so I had to come back around. Krista?
Something else that's odd, Martin Truex the leader, but they lost their windshield guy. Sean Boxman back in the care center with a split lip. The jack handle came back, hit him in the face. He's tough. He walked by me, lip bleeding, but he'll be back out here.
Ooh. All right.
Gosh.
Tough. Gosh, you gotta be. Racing season shifts gears into April, a month nationally associated with environmental awareness. NASCAR launches NASCAR Race to Green. Fans can visit NASCAR.com/green to learn more and support the environment, including donating trees across the country, or you can make a donation at the website.
It is pretty tough down there in the pits, Larry. I mean, those guys do take a lot. They get a lot of abuse.
There's been a lot of mistakes on pit road tonight, though, more than usual.
Saw a guy with his foot on fire, gets hit with a jack handle.
5 caution flags. Here we go back to green with Truex and Gordon leading Kyle Busch and Kenseth, Almirola and Kane, Johnson and Ambrose.
I think Kyle Busch will be in a hurry on this restart.
I think Martin Mark Martin backed a bunch of them up. He had to pedal it off turn number 2.
Yeah, there was
stacked things up pretty well there.
Big traffic jam over there that time at Mark College.
Everybody gets away cleanly, though. But Martin Truex wasted no time in reestablishing this lead.
Boy, he really didn't. I thought Kyle would pounce on him because Kyle's one of the best on the restart there is. But Martin he's flying tonight. He's got some Napa know-how going on tonight.
He has definitely been strong on the restarts, especially in the early part of the run in that 56 car.
But I think also if we look back and you see Jeff Gordon can't hang with these two guys up here to start with, but watch him as the run goes along, starts to chip away at that lead.
And how many races do we say that the 24 is a long run car? That if things come to him, the longer the green flag run goes.
I think it's just a comfort thing. Some drivers really get into where they want a car to feel a certain way. It's got to be comfortable. Don't want it to be snappy loose. I can't deal with that.
You know, Mike, we saw Greg Biffle in that 16 car because he had to start at the tail end of the longest line, topping the fuel tank off with 1 to go. That caution came right there where there's probably some drivers in their teams. They're thinking maybe we could make it on one more stop should the caution not fly.
I don't know how this is going to pan out. Nobody does. But tonight is a great. Here's Jimmy Johnson, who had a car pretty fast early in the running. Got off on adjustments. We saw him do that at Martinsville last week. They made the right adjustments and he won the race. But tonight, you got Kyle Busch up here with a shot at really making a dent into the points chase. And you got Kenseth up here. Some guys tonight could really take advantage if Jimmy Johnson continues to have problems.
Well, look at that blue car, though. Almirola. Eric Almirola is the only Ford in the top 5. And he and his teammate Ambrose are the only 2 Fords in the top 10. It has been a great weekend in Texas for Richard Petty Motorsports.
And I shouldn't say problems. They really haven't had any problems. I'm just saying that if they can capitalize on Jimmy not winning the race tonight, it might be a good opportunity.
And Mike, we keep talking about the speeds climbing. Half of our top 10 drivers just cut their fastest lap, including Eric Almirola in that 43 car about a lap or 2 ago.
Larry, you just always feel it. With about 100 laps to go, it just seems like everybody steps it up a notch.
Brad Keselowski on the outside of Mark Martin. Remember, Keselowski is 1 lap down. Carl Edwards is a lead lap car. Back there right behind Mark. And so too now is Ryan Newman, who got the free pass on the last caution.
And another guy keeps lurking, just kind of lurking around. Got everybody in sight is that 20 car of Matt Kenseth. It's one of those kind of races, like I said earlier, 500-mile race. He kind of waits for the last moment to make a charge.
Mike Bliss has gone to the garage where he will join Michael McDowell's car. McDowell is still on the racetrack in relief of Bobby Labonte.
Yeah, with less than 100 laps to go, we still have 41 drivers out on the racetrack.
And a lot of these guys, like, there's no question about it. We know Martin Truex and Kyle Busch, they got fast race cars. We've seen it all night long. But we don't really know just how fast is Jeff Gordon and just how fast is Matt Kenseth. That's the question you have to ask yourself as the race draws near an end. I continue to, I said it in the pre-race show, and I'm still amazed at the pace of this car. How fast this car, particularly in the corners with the camber they have in the rear tires now. Let's watch it. Let's take a little ride around here with Kevin Harvick. And remember how we saw Danica fighting the steering wheel. We saw Brad Keselowski kind of fighting the steering wheel. Watch Kevin as he goes down the front, loops it out the back. Out next to the wall right there, then dives it down to the bottom, looking for that white line. Listen how quickly he gets back in the gas.
Well, he never really got out of the gas, did he, Darrell?
He burps it. Yeah. It's just a little burp. A lot like he would do Keelan, I'm sure. Just a little burp. And then down into 3. And way back in the throttle before you ever even get to the center of the corner.
Yeah, only about 157, 158 miles per hour. What little bit he was off the throttle in the middle of the corner.
And we're going to be right at, what are we, 195 right there going into turn 1. That's in race trim, race condition.
Harvick in 8th place, Ambrose in 9th. We've talked about the drop-off of the tires from new on the restart and what happens to the lap times as you begin to get into a run. Let's analyze Martin Truex on this restart with the number 56. And the lap times go from 28.5, his first full lap under green, and then they drop off half a second. 7 tenths, 8 tenths, 1.3 seconds slower 9 laps after the restart.
And I think we just need to briefly explain why the drop-off. This surface does not have a lot of grip to begin with. It's a very old surface. And then the tire combination, obviously if you run on this older surface, the tires just lose grip and the car starts sliding around.
That's what made breaking that track record. I could not believe that we went 196 miles an hour around this place. That was amazing. With the surface the way it is, a little bit harder tire than we've had here before, I never thought we'd do it.
Oh, well, look at that graphic. There's nobody who wants to win here more than Martin Truex.
Oh, yeah, baby. It's on now, boy. That's for, man. Just nice and easy. Do your thing. Run your race.
But you know what? That's the most energetic and the most enthusiastic I think I've heard Martin Truex in quite a while. And we heard Michael say that he had been working with a sports psychologist. If you think you can, you will. If you think you won't, you won't.
43 drivers start the race. Only one goes home happy every single week. Now, a winless streak of more than 200 races by a past winner has been broken. Bill Elliott did it in 2001. He went 226 races without a victory and then broke through and went to victory lane.
Well, and the thing about Martin Truex Jr., guys, they've had fast race cars all year long. They were fast in the Daytona 500, had the engine issues. They had a quick race car at Phoenix and had the rear end yoke. So they've just been plagued by a lot of problems. And I'm sure now with 90 laps to go, that has to be the thought of Martin Truex Jr. and that race team. Can we close the deal?
Yeah, but you know the good news, you're right about fast race cars, but he's running out front. When you got a car that can lead this race with the competition the way it is now, with Kyle Busch nipping at your heels, Jeff Gordon nipping at your heels, and you're able to outrun those guys, that's a big, big evening for you.
Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Fastest lap of this race, Kyle Busch at 190.48 miles per hour. Get the new NASCAR Mobile 13 app and get truly unlimited data on the Sprint network. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Jimmy Johnson passed Eric Almirola, who now goes right back to work trying to retake that top 5 position.
Well, in no way when I said earlier that I count Jimmy Johnson out of this race, because I know how Chad is. He's probably got a little something saved up for that last pit stop. All I was saying was if you got a night like tonight and you can beat him, you better take advantage of it.
How about Almirola, Krista?
Well, something that's been really interesting with Almirola, he's one of the guys who was really tight all night. They said they've been scared to adjust too much because so many other guys are loose. Eric saying earlier in the race he just wasn't sure how this car could be so fast when it's been so tight.
Casey Kane closing in. Kane at 7th place.
A tight car is comfortable to drive. You don't have to worry about it snapping loose.
81 laps to go in Texas. Play Fox Fantasy Auto Racing presented by Ford. Pick your team of 5 drivers each week. Compete for weekly prizes all season long. Sign up today at foxsports.com/fantasy and pick your winning team.
Mike, we've had 5 caution periods for 23 laps, and we're averaging just shy of 150 miles an hour around this racetrack tonight. Just an incredible pace.
And next week we go to Kansas with the brand new pavement and these new 6th generation Camrys, SS's, and Fusions. Wow.
Yeah, you'll be saying wow a lot.
Yeah, I know the Rally Fenway drivers tested there a couple of weeks ago. Corner entry speed 212 miles per hour.
Yikes. Kyle Busch has led the most laps tonight, but he's sitting second, 2.3 seconds back, Matt.
Mike, moments ago, Kyle told Dave Rogers, we just don't seem to be making any headway. Every time we adjust the car, we move the problem to one other portion of the corner. Still loose on entry and exit is his biggest complaint. He said the car started out absolutely amazing at the beginning of that run, and then Dave Rogers told him, by the way, if the race does go green to the finish, we will need to go an entire fuel run on this stint and the next.
Thanks, Matt. He's trying to reel in Martin Truex, but it's fractional gains each lap at best. And we've talked about racing from daylight into darkness. Jeff Gordon's talking about another condition.
A little bit of wind picking up. Wind same direction? No, it's blowing from the back stretch instead of front stretch.
That's spotter Eddie DeHaan.
It's on top of the grandstands who will be able to feel that wind for sure.
It's good information. I tell you why. You don't want the driver to be surprised that all of a sudden the car does something I didn't expect, or there's something going on that I wasn't aware of. That way the driver knows the wind maybe. And Jeff, tell us about your strategy for the evening.
Well, guys, I've been watching these laps pretty much wind down over my shoulder, and I'm watching what Martin Truex is doing. To me, if I'm his crew chief, Martin, we got one step to go. Get me as big a lead as possible. If this thing goes green, I don't want you challenging getting on pit road and getting caught speeding. It also will take some of your pressure off the pit crew. You know that Kyle Busch is going to challenge him to pit road. He's got the #1 pit stop, so you've got to figure out a way to take everything you can away from him, because he's going to really put pressure on you on this final stop. If this pit stop goes green, and on top of that, I'd like to make him stop one lap before me.
Jeff, do we dare ask where you're at right now?
Where are you?
Where are you at?
Well, I'm right here on top of the Hollywood Hotel, and that way I can see the start-finish line and everything else. You can see the turn one. You can also see the scoring pylon. All of this here, all the way around the entire racetrack. I've been watching these cars work the racetrack and trying to figure out not only where they're going to race at, but also watching these pit crews as they start to get ready for this final crucial stop here in Texas.
Wind can't be too bad. It hadn't blown his hat off yet, so it's all
It's stuck on with a little bit of glue.
You know,
little bare bond will help anything.
Guys, to Jeff's point, all these drivers were on pit road, and there you can see these flags talking about the wind is marked. But lap 224, they pitted. If they can go 55 laps a run, Krista, then they can make it on one stop.
And that's the plan for Chad Johnston, the crew chief of that car you see right there, Martin Truex. They said if this stays green, this will be our longest green flag run. We need to make it all the way to our fuel window. And then if we can stretch it, I think we can just make it on that one stop.
Pit stops coming. What should be the final stop of the night. And Martin Truex hangs on to a 2.7 second lead.
Sunset to under the lights. Primetime racing in Texas. And there is your leader, Martin Truex Jr. Just about 100 miles to go. He was the leader, Michael Waltrip, at the 100-mile mark. You had Kyle Busch at 200, Jeff Gordon at 300. Pit stops playing an important role. We've already had a dozen miscues at least from experienced drivers, and we're coming up on maybe the last one where guys will have to ride it out.
Yeah, it's a critical pit stop, Chris. We talked about that first round. A lot of guys messed up. You can't have that late in the race. Some guys have overcome it, but some others haven't been able to. So it's getting down to crunch time. You better give me all you got on pit road.
Kyle Busch and Jeff Gordon on the heels, followed by Matt Kenseth, Jimmie Johnson, and Kasey Kahne moving up to sixth.
He's gaining, but here's Jimmie Johnson in the top 5, 8 seconds back. A winner last week, and we listened in on Jimmie Johnson.
I just start moving around a little bit, bud. We're falling back pretty quick here. I've been moving around. Of course.
Doesn't sound like a team whose game plan has come to fruition.
Yeah, he's just not quite as good, and he's a couple of tenths off of the leader of the lead cars.
But definitely that lap right there was a little quicker, about a 1/10 and a half quicker than the lap before that one.
Martin Truex splitting Dave Blaney and Danica Patrick here. You know, there's nobody in the garage area who doesn't like Martin Truex. Young fella came out of New Jersey, where his father and his uncle were great short track races. Martin Sr., a winner at New Hampshire in the NASCAR North Series, the Busch North Series, back a while ago. Martin's younger brother, Ryan, was set to make his Sprint Cup debut at Richmond, but broke his collarbone, so that's going to have to wait a while. But there's a lot of racing talent, several generations worth, in that Truex family.
You saw him with his hand out the window, Mike. He was giving the guys that he had, Danica and a couple others that he had just gotten by, he gives them a thank you. No, I think that may not be it. Is that a thank you? I think it is, or is that, what are you guys doing?
Well,
I think that more might be like, hey, what are you thinking, or what are you doing? I'm the leader. Cut me some slack. First time I saw it, I thought he was giving them a thank you very much, but after we looked at it again, I think that was more like, what are you guys thinking? I'm the leader. Give me a break.
We're in a long green flag run here, and there's been a green flag stretch of at least 100 laps in the last 7 Texas races, including a record 234 consecutive green flag laps here to finish the race last April. So here he's lapping Juan Pablo Montoya, whose pit has been handing Steve Burns some interesting intel. Steve?
Yeah, some chassis information, Mike. They said they were tight in the middle, loose in. They made a track bar adjustment. They made an air pressure adjustment. And oh, by the way, at the bottom of the note, there's no truth to the rumor that Chip Ganassi is selling the race team.
Thanks, Steve.
You know, guys,
special delivery.
We're at lap 272. If indeed a driver is going to try to make this on one more stop, we'll see that green flag stop. And about 6 to 8 laps from now, I keep going back to what Jeff Hammond talked about. We've seen so many mistakes on pit road. Speeding entering, speeding exiting, sliding across the pit line, loose lug nuts. You can't have that on this stop here.
A fire.
A fire. How many times have you said, Larry, don't beat yourself?
Don't beat yourself.
Yeah, that's a golden rule, boys.
Solid stop here is all we need, boys.
Golden rule. Don't give me 110%.
Just 100.
Just 100. That other 10% will get you in trouble every time.
Landon Castle just made a pit stop, but it'll be a little too soon to carry him to the finish as he runs 8 laps down. And Kyle Busch, you see the interval between he and Martin Truex, and it is growing. Truex is doing just as he's been asked. Open up as big a lead as possible before he has to come and make that pit stop. Here's Kevin Harvick to pit road. And Dale Jr. on fresher tires goes past Truex. Matt?
Mike, much of the race, Kevin Harvick was running the high side, but that last run, they dialed his car in so much he could run the bottom. He says a little bit tight trying to get the turn through the center, and he needs more help, more forward bite up off the corner, but the car much better that run than it has been much of the race.
A lot of the lap down cars in now. Yaley, Gilliland is in along with Reagan, and on the lead lap, Ambrose and Josh Wise all pitting. Matt?
And Marcos Ambrose, impressive qualifying effort, top 5, and trying to capitalize on it. Last week, he was 8th at Martinsville, hit pit road in the 9th position. He says that he just needs the car to cut better in the center of the corner, but it's absolutely way too free on exit. It's absolutely a handful, he says. Drew Blickensderfer says, make sure we pack this Ford full of fuel.
He pits with 58 laps to go.
Yeah, I'm saying Harvick and Ambrose cannot make it, pitting with 59 to go and 58 to go. They didn't run near that far that time. And that was with some cautions in there.
No one can say for sure that this race will go to the finish caution-free. But as we explained a bit ago, the trend is that it could. Krista.
Eric Almirola making his pit stop now. Remember, they have been one of the few cars who has been tight most of the night. You see the wrench going in. They will make an adjustment to get just the right condition for what they hope would be the final run. Not sure if they can make it. They're saying pack it full just in case.
What I'm seeing is a lot of the Fords are having to pit. Seems like they're the first drivers to come to pit road.
I tell you a guy that's having a solid night again. Paul Menard in that 27 car. Been watching him, and he just keeps creeping up through the field. He's up to 8th place right now. He and Slugger Labby, his crew chief, got a good race car tonight and having a nice run.
Now he and teammate Jeff Burton both in the top 15. Here is Clint Boyer, last week's runner-up in front of Steve.
And Clint's report is the car doesn't take off well, and it's way too loose. He's also been complaining of the splitter hitting the racetrack. It's been a tough night for Clint Boyer, but he's hanging in there.
Matt Kenseth gets real squirrely under braking, getting onto pit road. Looks like he's okay now, Steve.
Yeah, indeed, Mike. Now, Matt's saying that the car is a little bit tight in the center, loose on exit. They will make a chassis adjustment. Krista.
Jimmy Johnson, the car had been coming to him, then they were sliding back. He said he was sliding the nose, and that was the problem. Also, Martin Truex coming in right now. Truex had been flying, but he just came on the radio and said the car just got really bad tight, almost like I have a tire going down. Martin Truex is in.
Caution for, oh boy, there goes Jeff Burton after Ambrose had trouble, and Burton in the wall. Don't know if there's fluid down out there or not, but we're under caution.
Now these drivers that are on pit road, it looks like Kyle Busch, man, is there.
Kyle Busch on pit road. They told him to go ahead and pit. He said the car is absolutely terrible tight. Need to make a significant adjustment on this stop. Lampe says, yes, we are full of fuel, and he is away.
Truex also gets away, and they will remain on the lead lap. Jeff Gordon comes across, and Kyle coming onto pit road.
Yeah, he got into a little bit of a confrontation here with the 7 car of Blaney. I think they touched.
Well, and he almost did not have enough room to get between Blaney and that commitment cone. He can't hit that commitment cone.
Here's Truex. He's just trying to get all he can and get to the commitment line with as much speed without speeding, and he had to lock it up. So a lot of excitement getting on the pit road.
And what a tough break for Jeff Burton, because Burton was running in the top 10. Now there's Ambrose on fresh tires. Oh boy. Looked like there was contact between he and Gilliland there.
Wow, the 31 was way back
there.
You know what? It looks like he got on the brakes and it just locked the rear tires up or else spun out. I don't know why.
Mark Martin might have gotten into him, depending on when that caution came out.
Goes to 9 around off the 3rd. It looked like the
David
38.
Gilliland, the 38.
They made a little contact, look like. But then back here, pretty far back.
All accordioned up. Newman slowed down and others didn't. Oh boy. Pit stops, Krista.
Jeff Gordon saying his car is so tight, if we do not free it up, I will sit 3rd all night. Give me something to win this race, Steve.
Krista Bryant, Vickers in the 11. He needs help on entry. That's where he's losing time. Matt.
And the 22 is Joey Logano. He's in. The car is still loose on entry. He can move up more, though, during the course of the run. It just takes too long for his race car to come in.
Let's go back and have another look.
Yeah, we got to figure out what happened to the to Jeff Burton back here.
All right, let's ride with Jeff Burton.
Here's Mark Martin in the 55. Oh, yeah, there you go. Mark slowed down when he saw the 9 wrecking, and Burton just
backstretch.
Didn't see him. I mean, didn't slow down. Not sure didn't get the word or what. Not happy, I can tell you.
They have made repairs to Burton's car, and he's back out there. Krista?
Yeah, there you're seeing the tire off of Martin Truex's car. Right, remember, right before he came in, he said he felt like he thought he had a tire going down. Look at that thing. That is just absolutely shredded.
Oh, my gosh.
But I've got to say, for Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch, this could have been part of the flat spotting right here, I think, that maybe happened.
Yeah, that
But I think we had the perfect world for Martin Truex Jr. in the 56 and Kyle Busch in the 18 because of when they pitted, where they're at on pit road, and when the caution came out, they were able to complete their 4-tire stops, and they're going to be up there running first and second right now.
Yeah, Larry, it had to be some of that had to be coming on pit road. That tire could not have been that bad, and him kept going.
Well, it was the right front, and you saw as they removed it, it was pretty messed up, but there wasn't much tread left to it by the time he got to pit road. Jeff Burton audio.
We're in it. You got to be looking, dude. Somebody spun out on the back straightaway. You didn't see it. Mark Martin saw it and just stopped right in front of me. I'm not hurt. The car's hurt.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but I didn't want to say anything. I thought the spotter either didn't get to Jeff in time or Jeff, something happened between the communication there on the wreck in front of him.
Jeff Burton had a great top 10 run going. Not so much anymore. 6th caution of the night, 49 laps to go. And we saw what happened to the tires on Martin Truex's car as he came in knowing he had a problem and catching a break there, getting that tire off the car and changing it. He's not the only team that has been concerned about tire wear on that long green run.
Last 3 or 4 laps there, man, that right rear should have been done. Like, it was toast. I couldn't hold on barely. They just showed the 56s on TV. He'd love to bowl cheers on right now.
Yeah.
Dave Rogers and Kyle Busch. Let's check in with Chris Myers.
And Mike, with 49 laps to go, Toyotas have dominated in this race, but so have pit stops or pit problems. We saw Matt Kenseth in his Toyota create some fire under the lights here at Texas Motor Speedway. Tony Stewart, who's a couple of laps down. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. with battery problems, running 3rd at one point. Came in 3rd in points in this race. Jeff Gordon taking the lead after Kyle Busch goes up against the wall. So Jeff Gordon now entering into the picture here, currently running 3rd with Truex Jr. leading Kyle Busch. And moments ago, Jeff Burton.
Ambrose gets spun. You can see how far back Mark Martin is. He can see the wreck clearly. Burton's spotter didn't give him the word that there was a spin. He got into the back of Mark Martin and ran into the wall.
And a closer look at what you just described, Michael, take us through it. Jeff Burton okay, by the way.
Well, Jeff didn't know what's going on at all. He just can't see through Mark's car. Mark left off, no idea that he's going down the middle of the straightaway. Burton's just along for the ride after that. He's lucky it wasn't worse than it was spinning around on the back straightaway like that.
And with 48 laps to go, you have Martin Truex Jr., who hasn't won a race in 209 previous runs here. Kyle Busch, who's never won here in Texas, seems like he's won everywhere else. What's going through the mind of those two drivers as Jeff Burton hasn't settled his mind going through that mishap?
Well, Truex has been so close in the last couple of years. You got to remember, Chris, 6 years since he's won a race. That's a long dry spell for a champion like Truex. But he's got his arms around this race. I don't think they'll go to pit road anymore, providing the caution doesn't fall. So it's a sprint to the finish against one of the fastest guys in NASCAR with Kyle Busch. Jeff Gordon has been looming as well. If they can get that final adjustment that Jeff asked for, it could be a 3-man fight to the finish.
In the meantime, 5 times Truex Jr. has finished 2nd since his last win. Of course, he had a chance to win last year at Kansas, but that race, even though he dominated, fell short. We'll be in Kansas next Sunday here, NASCAR on Fox.
When I think of Kansas, I think of the heartland, barbecue in my hometown. But there's a lot more than that coming your way next week. Fast drivers and even faster cars. You don't want to miss this, trust me. It's next week at Kansas Speedway, only on Fox.
Look forward to that new asphalt already, though, with multiple grooves in Kansas, Michael. So how will that make a difference in that 1.5-mile track next Sunday?
The crew chiefs are going to be challenged. You know, you're going to come to pit road only every now and then at Kansas because the tires will continue to stick. The drivers are going to be challenged because of the intense speed. These guys will be going over 205 miles an hour down into the corner for this 400-miler. The multiple grooves that they have in the corners, the variable banking, means that there's going to be options for these drivers when they get down to the corner. Kansas, the action is going to pick up for sure.
But first, work to be done here. Is it a 2-driver race, Truex and Busch, or is Jeff Gordon in the picture? Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Thanks, Chris. 47 to go in the NRA 500. Let's set the field for you as we get ready for the restart. Kyle Busch behind Martin Truex. Kyle's led the most laps tonight. Jeff Gordon there in third. He's the first Chevrolet in line behind the two Toyotas. How about Joey Logano up there for fourth after starting way in the back. Brian Vickers in the top five, substituting for Denny Hamlin. And Carl Edwards, despite the troubles he's had tonight, he's back on pace in sixth place. Ryan Newman in seventh. Got back on the lead lap a couple of cautions ago and has moved forward. Mark Martin, you see the damage from Jeff Burton on the left rear corner of his car. He's eighth. Greg Biffle will be ninth for this restart. Alongside will be Casey Kane in 10th. He's the third Chevy in line. Matt Kenseth, there's Kane. And then Kenseth back in 11th with his Toyota. And the Ford of Eric Almirola. And drivers that took the wave around also included Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick, Paul Menard, and Clint Boyer.
Yeah, that caution flag shook things up just a tad there.
And to set the field and get it right, we're going to add one lap. Tony Stewart got the free pass on that caution, and the two cars involved in the caution, Jeff Burton lost a lap making repairs, and Marcus Ambrose lost 2 laps under repair. Both of them were in the top 10 when that wreck occurred.
Yeah, what helps so many drivers, pretty much like Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, Ryan Newman, was they were drivers just like pretty much Jeff Gordon and some of those others at the front that had not made their pit stop when that caution came out.
And I'm corrected, Matt Kenseth free pass. Tony Stewart, that was Kenseth who got the pass. Stewart's further down in the order. He's the first car 2 laps down, not 1 lap down. We're listening in on Jeff Gordon.
Just think about how bad it was running 45th in Vegas when they would get this green flag.
Dallas has been fine, I can tell you that. Look forward to having a little more.
Yeah, I tell you, that run at Martinsville last week, I think that really brought Jeff Gordon and his race team to life, no question.
I believe I'd have been a little bit more encouraging to Jeff. Come on, man. We had a good car all night. You're sitting right here with the guys that have been leading the race. Let's get this job done. Come on, let's go.
A little cheerleading.
Yeah, let's do a little cheering here.
Danica Patrick, 29th tonight after a great top dozen run at Martinsville last Sunday. She's 1 spot behind Dale Earnhardt Jr., who had problems, lost a battery, and is 28th. Getting ready for the restart. Last thing Truex wants to see is another caution flag. Let's see if he can finish it off here in Texas as Truex takes the green ahead of Kyle Busch. To the bottom, inside of Vickers and Edwards.
What a recovery for Carl Edwards in that 99 car. Remember, about 150 laps ago, they were having some issues with the engine, and there they are fighting up in the top 5.
You know why? I give a lot of credit to his crew chief, Jimmy Finning. He's the kind of guy that's the kind of race he calls. That puts you in a position when it counts.
Krista's in their pit.
Yeah, something else he had to come back from on a restart. His belts came loosened. Can you imagine driving nearly 200 miles an hour trying to buckle your belts at the same time? He said, whoa, that was close. So not only did they overcome the missing motor and the bad set of tires and lose seat belts too.
You can forget all that if you get a good finish out of it. Now, how about Brian Vickers? He dropped back a bit on this restart, now trying to battle back with Newman. Watch the 11 here.
Whoa. That's that snapping out that we were talking about. When you're on new tires, low air pressure, that thing will be going along perfect and it'll just snap around with you.
That loss of momentum occurs and everybody wants to drive on by. For 6th place, Vickers trying to charge back against Newman. And whoa, right there is that number 16 of Greg Biffle. He almost ran right through Vickers.
Biffle likes it when it gets like this.
I think he's got a fast car, Darrell, and he's getting impatient.
Yeah, it's his kind of, that's the way he likes it.
you see Brad Keselowski in the 2 car. He's 1 lap down, but he's the first driver a lap down, so he would love to see a quick caution.
Kyle Busch reeling in the race leader, Truex. 3 car lengths between them. Joe Nemechek down on the apron, puff of smoke from his number 87, trying to go the distance tonight.
Those first 3 cars are absolutely equal, matched up on lap times, lap for lap.
Matt?
Mike, Dave Rogers being the cheerleader here as we're chasing down to the finish, told Kyle Busch, just save your tires. You'll have them at the end.
Well, I think that's based on what they thought with Truex's right front being shredded up like it was. I know that Kyle said his were not too good either, but they were definitely better than Truex's.
Here comes Kenseth for 8th place against Ryan Newman.
And you can, you know what? If you know you got to take care of those tires, you won't lean on them quite so hard. You won't turn that wheel quite so much. You won't jump back in that throttle quite so hard. You'll be a little more gentle with the car.
But Larry, in that long green run, Truex wore out the right front tire. Kyle Busch said he wore out the right rear tire.
Well, we know for a fact that Kyle Busch had been loose. The rear was wanting to come around on him. That won't work the right rear tire. I think we heard a slight report. Truex was a little tight. The front end wasn't turning. That loads that right front tire, puts more wear on it.
But the guy running third, I never heard him say too much about having any kind of problem.
Not at all.
And that would be Jeff Gordon.
You know, we talked about the drivers running first, second, and third. I don't think we can say enough about the driver in 4th right now, Joey Logano. Remember, he had to start this race at the tail end of the field because of inspection issues. And I go back to lap 149 on that 4th caution. He was a lap down and got the free pass, and there he's right there running in the 4th position. One of the drivers, though, that got the benefit, he had not made his green flag stop when that caution came out.
That was a big break for Logano. J.J. Yaley almost got swallowed up by a group of cars at turn 2, and he's come around slow. Down on the apron is Trevor Bayne and Eric Almirola. Nose to tail, Almirola still on the lead lap. And Paul Menard trying to close in once he gets past Baines, number 21, which is a lap down.
You know, I think Todd Gordon, Joey Logano's crew chief, I think Joey and Todd, it took them a few races here, Larry, but I think they're starting to really gel. They're starting to communicate. And that little 22 car is getting better every week. We saw that in California.
Yes, sir.
Carl Edwards in 5th. We've seen some just incredible performances the last few weeks by drivers who've had terrible days. Last week it was Mark Martin. Everything went wrong on the pits and in the racetrack. End of the race, Mark Martin's in the top 10. Carl Edwards has had that kind of night, and here he is in the top 5 in the closing stages.
Yeah, I just think about how Jimmy Finning, the veteran that he is, been around this sport, I don't know, longer than I have just about, and calls such a great race. And he's a calming influence on an energetic Carl Edwards.
He did a lot for Matt Kenseth, who now drives for Joe Gibbs in that number 20, battling teammate for tonight, Brian Vickers.
I get a feeling Brian Vickers in that 11, he's just hanging on for dear life. But someone told him, Brian, less than 35 laps to go. He's giving it all he's got right now.
Remember, the 2 of Keselowski is 1 lap down. Denny Hamlin watching that 11 go around track without him. Last week with Mark Martin, and this week and next week with Brian Vickers. And he'll meet with doctors soon. Try to get an idea on when he can return to the seat of the number 11.
And the goal of the 11 team is to do exactly what they're doing. Build that notebook with this Generation 6 car, and also keep this 11 team in the top 10 in owner points. That could be huge, something we've not seen since the inception of the chase when we get to Richmond.
Well, this is really and truly the 3rd different driver in this car. I mean, think about Hamlin, and then you talk about Mark Martin last week, and now Vickers this week. So that's a big challenge for Darian Grubb and that team.
Casey Kane battling Kevin Harvick. That's 14th place at stake right there.
Wasn't that many laps ago, Kevin Harvick was up inside the top 10. It's almost like they've not kept up with adjustments exactly like they needed to with Kevin's 29 car.
Truex the leader by 0.8 of a second. He's finished second 5 times since his last victory. 209 races to go. And the man who's stalking him, Kyle Busch, in that green, white, and black number 18, in his 300th Sprint Cup start tonight. And look at the champions and a couple of Hall of Famers there who each won their 300th start, along with Casey Kane, great Ned Jarrett, and newly named Hall of Famer Rusty Wallace.
Well, I think it's going to take everything that Kyle Busch has got if he's going to get up there and win this race, take it away from Martin Truex. Because Martin is just, I watched the lap times again. Martin is a couple of tenths quicker than Gordon and Busch. So right now, if nothing happens to that 56 car, I don't see anybody challenging him.
They've done a nice job of keeping up with the racetrack and keeping up with the adjustments because they've been up there all night long.
Last time I saw him run this good was at Kansas.
Jeff Gordon slows on the front straightaway with 28 laps to go. 24 laps to go in Texas. That is car 24. Jeff Gordon in the garage area after running third. What happened, Krista?
Well, they came on the radio, thought it was a flat left front tire. He said he knew that was where the problem was. When they came in, the tire looked fine. It was the left front hub. The hub was completely burned up.
Gordon out of the race as he turned to the garage. Teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. came down pit road for another stop. But out front, Martin Truex Jr. and trying to lap Landon Castle. There is Kyle Busch, who has cut the lead to 1.1 seconds.
Hold the phone. That 18 is closing our last couple of laps. He's made up a couple of tenths a lap. He's coming.
Yeah, it was 2.5 tenths on that last lap.
I think he may have been listening to what Dave Rogers, save your tires. Maybe he's saved enough tire now he's going to stand on the gas.
15 cars on the lead lap. Back to Clint Boyer as we get down to the closing stages of the second 500-mile race of the season. There's the progression.
Well, we saw Martin Truex last year at Kansas dominate that race. No way he could lose. Had the best car of anybody there and got beat right at the end. And I'm telling you, that 18 car is on a mission.
Truex has come so close so many times. Mindful of Harry Gant trying to win his first Sprint Cup race. He finished second half a dozen times. And caution is out.
Caution's out, back it down.
21 laps to go and the caution waves. Debris in the fourth corner has put the yellow out for the 7th time. So now it's time for our Sprint 20 to go as the pace car picks up Martin Truex. 7 cautions for 33 laps, 15 lead changes in this one. Truex has led the second most laps, trying to go to victory lane for the first time since Dover in June of 2007. Kyle Busch has led the most laps, 150. That's almost as many as the whole rest of the field. And in third, when they fired the engines, Joey Logano wasn't even in his car yet because of problems in inspection. And look at the ride he has taken up the chart to third. And that's our Sprint 20 to go. Now we'll see how this caution impacts things.
If you think you've seen everything, wait till you see this. 20 to go.
Well, what we're going to see a busy pit road, Chris. I don't see them doing anything but 4 tires.
That's the plan, man. What a comeback for Carl Edwards to be in this race. There you see them on pit road. Carl Edwards trying to keep himself in the top 5. Meanwhile, Martin Truex is not racing for points. He is racing for this win. He said, don't change it. I like it. Matt?
Kyle Busch in the upper right says he needs more help most on exit the corner. He called for the air pressure change, taking air out of both rears to help for the forward bite. Meanwhile, Joey Logano, what a race he has had. He says the entry is very stable, but he needs to take off better, especially on this much shorter run.
And Busch wins the race off pit road with Truex second. Carl Edwards moving up. and Greg Biffle.
Guess what the deciding factor in this race may very well be? The number 1 pit box.
Which goes all the way back before this 500-miler started, qualifying last night.
Same as it was last week at Martinsville.
Pole winner has the first choice of pit position. Most pole winners pick pit number 1, and that's where Kyle Busch rocketed out from to beat Martin Truex to the end of the pit road.
Look at the boys celebrate. Woohoo!
Now, as the caution came out, we were riding with Mark Martin. They said there was debris up in turn number 4.
The car and went up and hit the wall.
And the free pass will put Brad Keselowski back on the lead lap. Chris?
Yeah, and amazing. I know Darrell pointed out, Michael, at the start of the race, you said to me, hey, that number 1 pit box qualifying for Kyle Busch, it may figure in the end of this race on the race off pit road, a major advantage in the battle for the top 2 spots with Toyotas.
Yeah, and you know, Kyle Busch has been solid, but as they run 10-12 laps, Truex has been faster than Kyle, so this sets up to be a really interesting finish. One guy that can sprint and keep up with Martin for a while, but then Truex seems to put him in his dust as they run on. So there's only a handful of laps to go. Could be interesting.
And Carl Edwards, who's won more Texas races than any other driver who's active here with 3, where does he figure in this, or is it a 2-driver race, 2-horse race at the end here?
Well, I also like Greg Biffle. Darrell talked at the start of the show about he's a wheel man, and you need your will right now. You need that drive from inside to go get the job done. You give me a sprint and Greg Biffle in a car, I like my chances pretty good. He's going to start on that outside of the second row right behind Truex. So I'd look for one of those 3 to get it done.
Darrell, Larry, and Micah. And Darrell, I guess strategy out the window, pretty much the driver who's got the car. This is where it's his to take the win.
Yeah, and this is where Kyle Busch is so good. He's great on restarts. He's going to have the inside line. And this is when Martin Truex really has to dig deep. This is when you start remembering how long it's been since I won my last race. You cannot let that affect your concentration. You got to get up on the wheel and you got to get it. Tonight you got the car to win.
And Larry, I can't put all that on pit box number 1 because it didn't look to me as if Truex's stop was as fast as some of the other drivers that was pitted around him.
It absolutely looked like Kyle Busch's crew nailed that pit stop, but I couldn't agree with Michael more. We've been talking about long runs all night long. This is not a long run. No. I do like that 16 car. We know that hungry hound, what he can do. He'll get both hands and feet up on that steering wheel.
Well, let's listen to some Kyle Busch team audio after that pit stop.
Go, go, go. Yeah, boys. That's the way you do it. How about 11-7 on the watch for my boys? Way to step up when the money's on the line, boys. Good job.
11-7.
Wow.
4 tires.
And there it is. It's a second on the stop.
Well, and about a second right there as well.
Well, when you saw him leave, when we were looking at him going out of the pits, he was out of the pits before anybody even got close.
And that's because of that first pit box.
Exactly.
He can fire right out of there, whereas Truex had to battle traffic down pit lane.
Is this a team sport?
18 cars took the wave around, putting McMurray and Bain and Quapple back on the lead lap. So 19 lead lap cars. Tony Stewart's the first car 1 lap down. As we get ready to settle this, it'll be 16 laps to go as the 2 Toyotas come to the green flag.
We got to go. We got to nail this restart.
Boy, look at Greg Biffle, that 16. He just forced his way to the bottom, almost right up against Joey Logano in the 22.
Somebody way up top, that's Kenseth. And out front.
It's mighty crowded off of 2 over there, but looks like they're going to make it down the back. Can they make it into 3? Woohoo!
3 wide.
Might even be a little bit too wide.
Narrows up considerably. Menard under fire from the 39. That's Newman to the bottom. Trying to take that spot away after Vickers muscled his way through.
Well, when you look up here what's going on in the front, the 99 car. Larry, the 99 car, for heaven's sake.
How about Brad Keselowski in that 2 car? He just got the free pass and he just drove up by a bunch of them.
He's up to 11.
happening. Martin Truex is going to have his hands full. Not only is Kyle Busch driving away from him, but he's going to have his hands full with that 99 car.
Almirola and Vickers had some contact, racing for 7th place.
Yeah, they got it got really it was a wad coming off of turn 2 over there. I'm surprised they made it.
Saw Kenseth there up high. He has not been able to advance. Not been able to run the bottom either. How about Martin Truex, Krista?
Well, Truex was worried about being second on that restart because he knew he'd be tight on the outside. The problem is his tight condition, not just on the restart. He said he is getting tight, and he doesn't know why.
Same thing. It so reminds me of Kansas last year.
A year ago.
Had a dominant car. Last pit stop. Whatever they did, whether they made a change or not, the car was not quite as good.
Well, and I think one thing that happened there is the weather changed dramatically late in the race. That's not the case tonight.
12 laps to go. Is that enough time for the car to come to Truex and him to run down Kyle Busch?
No way. Kyle, and they're matching lap times. Matter of fact, Kyle is a good 10 to 2/10 quicker right now than anybody in the field. I know we talked about, Michael said, give me Greg Biffle and 20 laps to go, and he might be my man. But I know on restarts, you give me Kyle Busch, you put him on the inside on the restart, I would say adios to everybody else.
There's Greg Biffle in the 16 trying to battle his teammate Carl Edwards. This would be a battle for 3rd.
And that's 2 guys right there. Carl Edwards has won 3 times here, one of the winningest drivers here, and Biffle 2 times. 2 guys that know this racetrack.
Brad Keselowski in that 2, all over the back of Paul Menard in the 27. He's trying to get into the top 10. I think a top 10 finish for that team tonight would almost be like a win considering everything they've been through today.
Well, yeah, look at his teammate, Joey Logano, running 5th. And here's Brad trying to get in the top 10. That's a great recovery for those guys.
Biffle's going to make the move to the inside of Edwards. Jeff Gordon out of the race with a broken left front hub. J.J. Yaley behind the wall. Ricky Stenhouse many laps down. And in the garage, Mike Bliss, Bobby Labonte, Michael McDowell.
Now, one thing I'm seeing, Truex has been a bottom feeder all night long. All of a sudden, he's found some speed up off the bottom just a little bit. He's not riding the rim but he is up off the bottom a little bit. And I think it's paying dividends.
He's gaining hundredths, though, Darrell, where he needs to be gaining tenths or more.
See, he was all the way on the bottom all night long, but now he's moving up just a little bit, the middle of the racetrack, and he is picking up speed.
Yeah, he gained a 10th that lap, but he's still a little over a second back. When they get back around here, 7 laps to go.
And those 2 are still the 2 fastest cars on the racetrack.
Guys, trust me, I'm not making this up. That 56 is going to catch that 18. I don't know if he's going to be able to get by him, but he's going to catch him.
Right about a 10th that lap right there.
Both drivers. Now Kyle has moved up a tad in the middle of the corner because I think they must have told him that's what Martin did in the 56.
And there's the interval. Trending down, and here comes Keselowski. Trying to take Paul Menard out of the top 10. And that will leave Ryan Newman in 9th as the only Chevy in the top 10, along with Jimmy Johnson in 6th, Out front, 2 Toyotas leading 3 Fords.
Okay.
Can't get to him. 10-4, man. Just give us all you got. That's all you can do.
Here's what I saw now. When 56 moved up, 18 moved up. And they started trading lap times again. So the spotter told Kyle, 56 moved up, picked up speed. Kyle responded by doing the same thing.
And the gap steady at 1.3 seconds. Five to go. Edwards, Biffle, Logano, Johnson. And Johnson under fire from Almirola for 6th place. As we about run out of laps here. Almirola's done a nice job tonight.
Yes, he has.
Richard Petty car in the top 10.
He's done a really nice job.
Started row 2. Little lap traffic in between the 2 leaders. That's Timmy Hill. That will benefit Kyle Busch with 4 to go.
And Brad Keselowski in that 2 car, I know there's not a lot of laps to go, but he keeps picking them up and laying them down. He's going to drive by Ryan Newman in the 39, moves up to 9th spot now.
And Truex closing just a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of nip and tuck now. I mean, Kyle will be quicker 1 lap by a 10th. Martin will pick up a 10th, but it's pretty much leveled off. It looks to me like that unless something happens to that 18 car, he is going to get he's going to run up on a couple of lap cars here. That could play a little bit of in the game, but I don't think enough for Martin to catch him.
2 to go. Last night, Kyle Busch won his 12th career Sprint Cup pole. Last night he won the Nationwide race.
He's looking for another sweep. I think he has 6 already.
And if he can close the deal here, the number of Sprint Cup Series tracks that he does not have a Sprint Cup Series win at, that number's getting smaller and smaller at 27 years old.
Well, it's not over. Truex made a big gain that time because of these lap cars.
He cut a 3rd out of Busch's lead.
He's there. He's going to get up there to him.
Final lap.
He won't get to you. 10 back. All good here. Hit your marks. Bring it checkered.
Lap car way to the inside. And Kyle Busch driving Joe Gibbs Toyota rounds out the corner and joins a group. Ned Jarrett, Rusty Wallace, Casey Kane. Kyle Busch wins his 300th career start.
From the pole, led the most laps with a new track record. Pretty nice weekend. And a sweep.
I'd say that's a clean sweep. Samantha, crew chief Dave Rogers celebrate, and the team.
That team had a whole lot to do with it. That pit stall certainly did too, but that team,
let's go get some good.
They knocked it out of the park on that last pit stop.
You think about after race 2, after Phoenix, he was not even in the top 30 in points. And he has followed that up with 6
awesome job, man. I'm so proud of you.
It is Kyle's 26th career win. 23rd on the all-time list, tied with Hall of Fame nominee Fred Lorenzo. Took 16 races to get his first win in Texas.
Man. Good job, crew. Good job. Thank you, sir. You drove a great race, man. You're doing awesome this year. I appreciate it so much.
Second win of 2013. And in NASCAR's top 3 series, that's 9 Texas trophies.
One of those nights when you look at Kyle Busch and that 18 team, everyone did their job to perfection.
You got it. I agree 100%.
Big celebration for Kyle Busch. 26th career win, and for Joe Gibbs Racing, it's their 103rd Sprint Cup win, their 3rd this year, and his 4th at Texas.
Do you think the coach likes, the former Washington Redskin coach likes to win a race maybe near Dallas?
I would say so.
I'd say so. And Interstate batteries on the car, what a great night.
The original sponsor of Joe Gibbs Racing.
Norm Miller is smiling big somewhere.
Now we're going to play Capture the Flag and salute the crowd.
And ladies and gentlemen,
the bow.
The bow. Thank you very much. It's been fun. Thank you for playing.
Kyle Busch led 170 laps tonight. And for Martin Truex, yet another, his 6th second place finish since the last time he went to victory lane. We'll be back with more from Texas Motor Speedway, where Kyle Busch heads for victory lane.
Exciting finish for Kyle Busch, NASCAR on Fox at the Texas Motor Speedway. Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers welcoming you, and Carl Edwards working his way up to third, and Martin Truex Jr. Michael Waltrip racing for the second straight race, winds up second, but heartbreak for Truex, who's standing by with Chris Devoe.
Heartbreak indeed. I don't know if second place has ever felt so bad as when you have a car that good. If that caution hadn't come out, wouldn't have had to do that restart, would it have been a different story?
Yeah, shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know. It happened a few times to us last year, too. So I'm just disappointed. You know, the race was over when we got beat out of the pits. You know, the bottom was so fast for a couple laps. And you know, I was really worried, honestly, that I was going to lose second because Carl was on the inside of me. And so I just was somehow able to run 1 and 2 wide open to get him cleared. And just that guy that gets clean air is hard to get, you know, it's hard to catch for 10 laps. And I just was a little bit tight behind Kyle. I started catching him as we were running, just out of time. And race was over in the pits, so sucks. Proud of my team, proud of the Napa guys, Chad and everyone. We've had a tough season. We had a great car all weekend long. We definitely had a car worth, you know, capable of winning. And just, man, I'm tired of finishing second. This is getting old.
A great car, but yeah, this one's going to sting for Martin Truex.
You can see it on his face and hear it in his voice. Meanwhile, for Kyle Busch, one race, won all of last year, already 2, and Steve Burns is down there in victory lane for the celebration.
And what a celebration it is, Chris Myers. The broom to Texas Motor Speedway. What a weekend, Kyle. Talk about the win tonight.
Eddie made me my own right there, baby. That feels good. Oh, man. For Interstate Batteries and Norm Miller to be in victory lane in Texas, there's none better than putting him right here, you know. And great race car. Dave Rogers and these guys gave me a great piece today. We ran up front all day long. But if it wasn't for my pit crew, who's the most awesome group ever, and since 2008 we've been together, haven't had any changeover, man, those guys are just awesome. They pulled out one heck of a stop right there at the end to put us up front to give us that lead and to be able to bring it home, you know. So I thank M&M's and Toyota, of course, Monster Energy, Sprint. Without Sprint, this wouldn't be a sport, so we appreciate them. And, of course, the fans, you know, without them also.
Kyle, how important to win this race tonight?
I'm sorry?
How important to win this race tonight to you and your team?
It's good. It's really, really good. I mean, we've had a great start to the season, and it feels amazing to keep this roll going, you know, and it's just so much fun to race with this group. We had a talk over the winter. Dave and I had a talk a few weeks ago, and things have just kind of gelled, man. We've been doing really, really good. And I'm proud of this bunch, and couldn't say enough about Joe Gibbs Racing. Everybody back in the shop, all the guys and gals, I mean, these cars are amazing to drive. They're fast, they're fun, and what up, buddy? And it's just amazing. It's good. I love it.
All right, let's go back to Chris Myers. Congratulations.
Thanks, Steve. Part of that talk over the winter, I've got to start living differently, is what Kyle Busch and Joe Gibbs Racing and his team talked about. And while Kyle Busch dominated this race, a number of drivers had to make up ground just to get back near the top, including Joey Logano going back to pre-race. Michael, we talked about it, last car through inspection.
Look how frustrated Joey is, wondering if he's even going to get to race. They were that close to getting that car on pit road. Luckily, they made it. He parlayed that into a great finish, Matty.
Yep. Go ahead, Matt.
Absolutely, and we documented that drama pre-race. In fact, they gave the command to start engines. Your car was not even to the grid yet. How would you describe this day to where it started and how it finished?
Shoot, I wasn't even in the car yet. But no, these guys dug really, really hard all day to get this Shell Pennzoil Ford on the racetrack. And it was a little too close for my comfort, to be honest with you. Having to start from the back, worked our way up. Ty Gordon did a great job, you know, keeping everyone under control, not getting overwhelmed by everything. Focused in, made his adjustments, got our car a lot better than what it was. We just weren't fast on the short run. You know, we started fourth there with, I think it was like 40-something to go, and the top three guys are gone. And then after, you know, 15, 20 laps, I can hang, and then eventually I start catching them a little bit. We never had any short run speed in our car all weekend. Even from practice, we were slow on the short run, but good on the long run. So I have to kind of figure out where that speed is. But if you told me I would have finished fifth today, I would give you a hug, because it's definitely, man, I'm pumped up about our finish, the way we got that.
I'll take a handshake. And by the way, coming in tonight, he hadn't finished in the top 10 in the last 4 mile-and-a-half races, and he scored a fifth here at Texas.
Meanwhile, Kyle Busch, who recently shot a cameo on the FX show Anger Management with Charlie Sheen, is celebrating here. All smiles. More interviews in a moment. Here's the way it wound up after 500 miles. Michael, you see the 2 Toyotas and then 3 Fords. Jimmy Johnson hanging in there to finish 6th.
Yeah, and a great run for Eric Almirola. That our Richard Petty Motorsports team was strong all weekend, and he finished up strong.
Brad Keselowski at top 10, then Casey Kane, Matt Kenseth, the 2-time winner. Harvick, remember, had the engine change, started at the back of the pack, finished 13th.
Yeah, we saw Ambrose spinning down the back straightaway in that other Richard Petty car. He finished 19th. Tony Stewart, trouble on pit road, winds up 21st, and then Jeff Burton crashed on the back straightaway, still came home with a top 25 finish.
Danica Patrick wound up 28th. Austin Dillon, Jimmy Hill in the Oxy Water Carly. Jeff Gordon, who was in the top 3, and of course had a problem and fell out of the picture. Let's check in with Chris Davona, standing by with Carl Edwards.
What he thought was a bad engine turned out to be cracked tailpipes. Then it was a bad set of tires, and then no belts. How in the world did you come back with the top 5 tonight?
We got a great crew chief. Jimmy Finnick did a great job. He called an amazing race. He took every advantage that we could, pitting early, and yeah, it's insane. I mean, the car was really good at the beginning. Then the engine started running poorly, and that was the tailpipes. And then I thought the left rear was falling off at one point. I mean, I'm sure the whole field could read Fastenal on the left rear when I was driving the corner. And then the seatbelts. I don't know what the state laws are around here, but in Missouri you got to have seatbelts. So I got them hooked back up, but I lost a ton of time, and fortunately we didn't go a lap down. So 3rd place is like a win tonight. I mean, it's not a win. We need to be better, but that's a great gift for us.
Hooked back up at nearly 200 miles an hour. A 3rd for Carl Edwards.
What an impressive job by Greg Biffle, former winner here at Texas. At times I thought we were running at Eldora. That car was so sideways.
Man, I tell you what, I had my hands full tonight. It was really tough. I started in the back, then got a pit road penalty with 100 to go. I had to start tailing the longest line. Worked our way back and forth, got a caution, got tires on it, and just drove her up through there. But, it was a really tough handling race car, but we're making it better and better. And as it cooled off and the grip went up, our car got better. And that equaled us out. But, I just wish we'd have started up there, maybe got to race with the 18 and 56 a little bit. But I'm happy with 4th. The guys did a pit stop's phenomenal. Really excited about another top 5.
Thank you, Greg. Chris?
Thanks very much. So 7 races through the season. Jimmy Johnson maintains the points lead. Carl Edwards, by the way, last year had only 1 top 5, already has 3. Well, he had 3 all of last year, already has 4 so far this year. Look where he is in points and has a win to boot.
Yeah, and his teammate Greg Biffle right there ahead of him. Look at those Penske cars, both of them in the top 10 in points. Tonight was a big night for them to overcome some issues, and they did so good.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. having his worst finish of the season, came in 3rd in points. And you see Tony Stewart, who needed to try and get within the top 20 in points, did not do very well. Stewart-Haas Racing taking it on the chin. We'll be back with final thoughts on Kyle Busch. Is he the guy to challenge Jimmy Johnson in the big picture?